All right. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Path to Manliness podcast. I, for the first time, have a returning guest in Garrett Dailey. So it's been some time. I mean, it's been over a year, I think, since we last did one of these. So feel free to introduce yourself to anybody who may or may not know who you are.
Yeah, I think, was that episode 2?
It was like 6 or 5 or something.
No, yeah, I was late to yours.
You're pretty early.
I'm Garrett Dailey. I am a philosopher. I write a lot of stuff. I haven't written a lot of stuff lately. I run a website called MasterSelf, masterthyself.com, although it has moved to ion.media/masterself, although it is probably actually going to move back to masterthyself.com. I don't know. I'm working on it. But getting updated regardless.
So there's going to be 2 websites now. It's going back from, there's going to be Ion Media, and then there's also going to be the Master Thyself.
Well, yeah. So originally my plan was that I was launching the Ion Media website, which I built, and it's super badass. It's really clean. And I figured what I could do was take MasterSelf, which gets tons of traffic, and then merge it with Ion Media to get Ion Media a bunch of traffic. But I'm basically going to kill Ion Media because it doesn't really do anything. We haven't done anything in months, and I'm going in kind of a new direction that's more independent anyway. So it makes more sense to just update MasterSelf than try and do. I won't get into the technical parts of it, but it would be very, very hard to complete the transfer of the website over because I'd have to do a bunch of redirection. It was, I don't know. I haven't done it yet because it's going to suck. So.
No, I know what you mean. I hate the technical stuff. I've been battling with email services. So Stefan Molyneux got booted off of MailChimp, right? Yeah. And I was pretty happy with MailChimp, but I took my stand of solidarity, even though like I'm not really a Stefan Molyneux fan, but the principle of it pissed me off. So I left there, and now I'm in limbo trying to find one that I like, and I don't know. I think I found one that I like, but I'm having trouble getting my emails to go through. So check your spam folder, people. No, I think Master Thyself is a good thing on its own. I like names that you don't even have to explain it. You just hear the name and you understand what it is. So I think there's power in that. So that's exciting. Are you still going to be talking about like the same deep philosophical discussions, or?
Yeah, just so kind of. I didn't intend for it to be the way to have as much of a pattern as it did, but like the first year was a lot of like epistemological stuff, and by that I mean more like just focusing on the individual and kind of how you think. And then year 2 got much deeper. It was very like metaphysical. So year 3, which now we're halfway through year 3, and I've written I think 2 or 3 articles instead of like I probably would have been at 40 by now if I was writing as much as I used to write. Was supposed to be aesthetics, but I actually don't think that you could write a whole year's worth of content about aesthetics because it's like cool things, like good looking things are good, bad looking things are ugly. Don't make ugly stuff. So I don't know.
You could go deeper into like the effects of aesthetics, like how you can manipulate or persuade is maybe a better word. People into, I don't know. I think subconsciously we see things aesthetically, and it imprints in our mind ways that the artist may understand more than we understand. So there's directions I think you can go. Maybe not a year's worth, but there's probably something.
Yeah, the other thing I think part of the issue was that I didn't plan for year 1 or year 2 to have a theme, and then I was like, oh, year 3 is going to have a theme, and I think that was part of the issue. The thing that really sucks is that 99% of all the writing I've done on my website has been done inside one Starbucks or another, and so with coronavirus and everything being closed, I was trying to write in my room for a while, but I've spent so much time in my bedroom, which is tiny. If you've ever seen for anyone watching, if you've ever seen a podcast with me, I live in like a very small closet, basically. Like I have a bookshelf and my clothes hang up on the wall. There's no actual closet, and I have a tiny bathroom, and it's like not much bigger than this porch. And just, I don't know, I was doing all kinds, you know, I was like waking up and doing yoga in my room and then doing work in my room and then like doing other stuff in my room. And then the thing that I did have before that was like a very specific ritual for when I would go to Starbucks and get my coffee, sit there for like 15 minutes, drink some coffee, make sure, you know, like organize all the stuff in front of me and like kind of get in the zone. And I would just write for 4 hours and knock shit out. And losing that has killed it. I don't know. So hopefully when this is all over, I'll start writing again.
Yeah. One of our coffee shops finally opened back up, although I haven't gone there yet because I have to check and see what the rules are, because every place that opens up has like these weird rules where you can do this and that, and I don't know if I want to steal their couch for 6 hours so I can sit there and write. But yeah, every place has different energies. Have you tried writing on the porch where you're sitting right now? Because I kind of like the idea of writing outside. No,
no. Honestly, I'm just like, I was just like, all right, I'm gonna take some time off.
Yeah.
Part of it too, when most of my book was written in Reno, and in Reno I was working at Tesla, so I had 3/4 days a week to work and 4/3 days off every week, and I usually would go write at least 2 days a week, and I had very long weekends with basically infinite free time on all of them. When I came to Raleigh, I had like a month where I think I wrote probably like 10 articles. They were all like 8 or 9 pages a piece, where I had, I have all this time to write now. It's great. You know, I don't have to work all this time during the week. And then like freelancing and doing other stuff, it was like, I've run out of ideas very, very quickly. So I wrote less from then on. And then I've actually just been super busy, you know, like before I really didn't have to make time to write because I had infinite free time. And now I've just been, I'm doing so much stuff. I'm in 2 different like small companies, and one of them's a startup, which is a nightmare. Running startups sucks. Don't do
it. Yeah, I don't intend to. Everyone sees like all the success at the end. They don't see the part where Elon Musk is like literally sleeping under his desk and coding for like 18 hours a day. I don't need it.
Yeah, so it's bitch, man. And this is I just counted. This is number 6, startup number 6 done. If you count all technically MasterSelf, at one point there were 10 people on the team, which is weird because none of them fucking did anything really. But
yeah, isn't that normally how things go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it didn't take off until after all the people left.
God, I have no interest in managing people. I've been toying with the idea because like there's things I could use where I could have somebody help me out, but I feel like what would happen is I'd spend 3 to 6 months training, and then maybe get 3 to 6 decent months, maybe, probably not, and then they're gone.
Yep.
So I don't know. I might get an intern, see if I can find one just to see what happens. So I'll put that out there. If you write me a 1,000-word email why you might make a good intern, I'll consider it, but I don't know any details about what that would entail. I think
that's doable, though. You have enough of a fan base, and I'm sure there's somebody out there that knows how to write. You got like 25,000 followers. Somebody's got to be enough to
30, I think. Yeah, and and I can teach them some things. So, yeah, interning is great. I interned when I was younger, and it's like way underrated. I actually got paid for it, which I guess is kind of rare, but it was like barely over minimum wage. But I learned so much, and then it helped me get my first job out of college. So I think it's worth doing a little bit, as long as you can get like decent work. If you're just gonna be like filing shit, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I did when I was in high school. There was this thing where you had to like write essays and do interviews and all this shit, and it was called the Governor's Page Program in North Carolina. So I did that. I got it. I was a page in the Department of, I want to say, Transportation, and what basically we did was I got a desk facing a wall in the corner of an office that had 2 people in it. And in the mornings, they had sometimes a letter on the desk, and I had to walk that down the hallway and deliver it by hand. And then I did nothing for the rest of the day except read a book. So this is when I was in my big objectivist kick. I read like almost the entirety of Atlas Shrugged in a week, which I don't know if you've ever seen it, but that's like a 1,100 page book. And that was it. I mean, we also went to the women's prison. So if you've never had muscular, middle-aged felon females gawk and make remarks at you, you could do that.
I've been denied that pleasure. Yeah. So
wouldn't recommend it. That was traumatizing.
I mean, you've had quite the path, man. Like you've been all over. You've done some interesting things. So, but no, I'm drawn. I've always been drawn to you because it's hard to find people that are so driven, you know, especially now. One thing that's frustrating me is that I'm seeing, I mean, obviously there's people that don't think it's safe to open this country back up, and I get it, but I think I'm seeing more of, I don't want to go back to work because I'm getting paid to sit around and do nothing, which is okay for a month, but it reminds me of like kids going on summer vacation, not wanting to get out of bed and not wanting to do anything, and then like complaining about going back to school. It's like, look, you're not going to be able to sit on summer vacation and be happy forever. Like, you might think you can, but this is not a path to happiness.
That should be your new alt.
Path to happiness.
Yeah.
That could be my OnlyFans account.
Yeah, no, it sucks, man. I have had an interesting experience because for like 90% of quarantine, I actually was doing probably like top 95% of people, like just kicking ass, really on top of everything. I was doing 2-a-day runs and shit, and like calisthenics and yoga. And then I did a perfect week challenge, which was pretty cool. And I did a week-long or like a 9-day fast. And just recently, man, I've just I'm just like, oh, I'm
getting burned out.
I'm done.
I did the opposite. I kind of coasted for a little while, and it's kind of been eating me up now. So we talked on the phone the other day. You mentioned the perfect week, and that's been, I'm working on it now. So,
nice.
You know, yesterday was not perfect, but I wouldn't say I failed anything that I didn't want to. So, and it was also kid's birthday. So, you know, I can eat cake. But now I'm like, all right, I'm not going to booze. Maybe I'll have 1 or 2 glasses of whiskey on Friday, but not beer, which for me, that's a pretty big one. And then I've been struggling because I like to run, but I haven't been running lately because I got burnt out from the ultra marathon I tried to run, where I only ran 25 miles. We'll round it up to 26.2. And I don't have anything scheduled, and it's really throwing me for a loop, because that was like one of my big motivations was I have to go run this race here, so I have to train for it. And I just decided today, I was journaling, I'm like, all right, June 12th, a month from today, I am going to run a half marathon. I'm going to try to beat my time from last year, which I actually ran my half marathon, I think today last year. I saw it on my Facebook memories. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a clue on how to start an actual race, but I'm so tempted to organize one where it's like, we're going to do time, but you're going to start staggered. So every 5 minutes a runner goes, or every 10 minutes a runner goes. Like there's got to be something we can do.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I know people have talked, people are doing like indoor races and stuff. I know some guy ran like 100 miles around his house.
I did a podcast with a guy recently where he scaled Mount Everest up and down his stairs over the course of a week.
Oh yeah, you did a podcast with that guy? Hell yeah. Yeah. I heard about that.
Yeah, Ben Aldridge. He was an interesting dude, but that was only a couple episodes ago, I think. So yeah, he that was a neat idea. I've thought about doing that with my driveway, which is pretty much a stairway. So, but I mean, we need that. We need something. We need challenge, and it's more fun when there's other people involved. I need the competition of it.
Yeah, I'm mainly excited that barring any unexpected problems, the gyms come back on the 22nd.
Yeah, ours opened up, I think last week, or maybe it was this week, but I haven't been yet. I still I was working out at home more than anything, and I like going outside and running, but yeah, they got all sorts of weird stipulations. Like they're there's like a process to get in now. I don't know if they have to check your temp or something, but
I don't give a shit, man. They can
it's
they
fine.
can stick a tube in my nose. I don't care. I want to go back.
That looks miserable. I'm not doing that shit.
Not that swab. That looks awful. I don't want that. You can do that thing that people do in movies where you like put a pen in somebody's lung to make it uncollapse. I'll do that, but not that thing in your nose. That looks terrible.
Dude, for real. Yeah. Yeah, the first time I saw the pen thing, I saw it in the neck.
What movie? Yeah, what movie is that?
I forget. Was it with John Leguizamo? That was the one I saw. It was a weird movie. But I remember like being a lot younger and like had never heard of that. And I see him like grab for a pen. I'm like, I wonder what he's doing. I had no clue. And then he just slides open a little like cut in his neck and sticks a pen in there. And the pen's like a ventilator. I don't know how that works, but
yeah, I don't get it. But the you know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of did you ever see The Rock?
Yeah. The
Rock
pen?
where he has to stab himself with the big giant needle in the heart. That's what I'm thinking of.
Dude, The Rock is people like to shit on Michael Bay, but The Rock is one of the greatest movies.
Fucking awesome.
Oh my god. That's one of those movies. That's probably one of the first movies I bought where, aside from like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where I'd watched it like repeatedly. Like I've probably watched that movie like 10, 15 times as a kid.
I don't think I've seen it in a decade, but man,
it's an oldie.
Dog.
All these young guys need to go watch Nicolas Cage at his finest as he's getting ready to become the Tiger King.
What is my dad used to always say that the quote, but something about losers say something, but the winner goes home with the prom queen.
Losers complain about doing their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen.
Yeah.
That is the single greatest line from that movie.
That's full of good lines, though, man. That movie.
It's so good.
I'm gonna go watch that.
I need to go. I think I've got that on DVD somewhere. That's how old it is. It's on DVD. That's one of those movies. I can't figure that movie out because it bounces back and forth from like really intense seriousness to like really goofy, like cheesy 90s action. You know, like one moment Ed Harris is
right.
Yeah, it's typical Michael Bay. You got one moment where Ed Harris is like, you know, paying his respects to fallen soldiers at like a Arlington cemetery, and like rain's pouring down, and the next thing you know, it's like a fucking trolley sliding down the hills of San Francisco, smashing a Ferrari, and some kid on a bike rolls up. He's like, "Dude, you just fucked up your Ferrari." Like the theme of that, or the tone of that movie is all over the place.
Good times, good stuff.
Yeah, I knew when I invited you onto the podcast, the deep philosopher that you are, that we would discuss the 90s action movies that is The Rock.
Speaking of discussing movies, you know, the best action movie of all time, which is Highlander.
Yes. I don't know if it's the best, but it's up there. I think that maybe I won't say the best, but that is the most pure version of the male mythological fantasy of all time. It's up there. I think Conan is right there with it, or close to it.
That's close, but it's different.
Yeah.
Because Conan is already born special.
That's true.
McLeod doesn't know he's special until later. You know, he's just a normal guy. And then he realizes that he's special. Conan's already a badass, right?
Yeah. I think that's important. Because I feel like there's certain people you see, like Michael Jordan. Like, he's inspiring in a way, but he's not inspiring like you can become Michael. Like, you're not going to be Michael. But
yeah, I mean, I know, like, even though he's one of the things I like about, just a quick tangent, I don't follow sports outside of I like UFC, but
yeah,
the one thing I have remember hearing multiple times from many sources that Michael Jordan's a gigantic asshole. Yeah, I always thought that was really funny.
You want to find out? Watch The Last Dance. They've been playing this on ESPN.
You were telling me about that shit.
he is like relentless though. Like he was like betting the security guys on they're trying to like flip quarters at the wall and trying to get the quarter as close as they can to the wall, and whoever wins like gets money, and he's taking it from him. He would he would like fly. They'd be flying to, you know, go play the fucking Detroit Pistons or whatever, and then he would make a bet with his teammates to see whose luggage would come out of the fucking airplane first. And then he would pay the baggage handlers to make sure his came out first so he'd win the bet. You know, he just hated losing.
I love that, though. I mean, like, because I don't know. You think it like, everyone has this idea of like sportsmanship and stuff, and he's just such a bastard.
Yeah.
Like, man, there's some of the stuff where he just insults people, he talks mad shit, and I don't know if it was something he actually said, but that meme where it's like a picture of him crying, it's like, fuck them kids, man. You know?
I don't know what he's saying.
I find that to be really like satisfying in some strange way. But
well,
no, it's true. I think that's part of what makes a good story is that, like, well, really the training montage, but the idea that you could do something about it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it's the difference between like it's like in Hindu stuff. There's always like like Krishna incarnates all the time and he does stuff. And it's like, okay, well that's cool, but like you're not the incarnation of Krishna. You just kind of set the bar impossibly high there, bro.
Yeah, like the best I can do is like maybe, you know, I get back in shape and I become a different kind of person, but it's not quite as dramatic. No, I've been reading, I think you can see it up there actually, Bullfinch's Mythology. It's pretty hard to read.
Right? Yeah, I cannot read it all.
No, it's too small. But anyway, I've been reading that a little bit, and it's like all these ancient stories of like Greek myth and Roman myth, and it's actually like a gigantic book. It's kind of overwhelming. When I first bought it, I was like, yeah, this is too much. I can't read this. And I just stuck on the shelf and let it look pretty. But one of the earlier parts of the book, it talks about how like these mythos are, you know, like it's telling the story of humanity and it's empowering. And it's like, it's not about whether it's real. It's not about if you can believe it. It's that the idea of, you know, Prometheus bringing fire down to man and inspiring humanity, and Achilles, you know, going on this great, you know, war for the Helen of Troy, and all these stories are meant to inspire man, and you know, people like to give a lot of shit to like say Star Wars or Marvel or whatever, and deservedly in many cases, but some of these movies are actually like really inspiring in their own way. You know, like I don't think I've ever sat down and watched Rocky or Fight Club and not lost weight the next week. Because like just looking at Stallone and looking at I want to say Tyler Durden, at Brad Pitt, you know, like it makes me want to get back in shape. It makes me want to bust my ass a little bit. And, you know, that's just a very like surface level interpretation. But I think when done right, when not just like binging like some people like to do, I think these stories, even if they are just a modern tale as opposed to like a classic epic, you know, they can inspire us to be better.
Yeah, on actually on two separate occasions, I have watched Fight Club with a group of dudes who had not seen Fight Club before, and then immediately afterward went out back and we all punched each other in the chest. You know, like twice. This has happened twice now. If I had not joined a fraternity in college, I would have started a Fight Club. And this time, the last time, it was right before the stay-at-home order happened. We were going to start one too, but like normal, like go buy UFC gloves and mouth guards and do it professionally.
That's the right way. Yeah, I think humanity is like drawn to Mortal Kombat. Like we want to have some type of, you know, struggle in our life. Like it's been bred into us for millennia, right? So, you know, that's why people are drawn to the UFC and to Taekwondo and martial arts. Like I can't sit down and watch the UFC fights and like not get kind of jittery. Like I get a little amped up sometimes, especially when it's like a really fair, like evenly balanced fight.
Yeah. Or sometimes you get to see somebody really kick the shit out of somebody. That's fun too. But I would, you know, I'm about 50-50 which one I prefer. Like I like a really good fight, and I like somebody getting their ass kicked. What I do not like is like 5 rounds of just grappling. I find that like I used to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, and I just don't. I find that very boring. I like now. One of the things I remember is like 10 years ago, there was debate in the UFC as to whether kicks above the waist were effective, right?
Right.
But now there's, man, people get head kicked all the time. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, there's that video
that people started doing.
It's a video of Valentina Shevchenko, like just clocking. I forget who she is. That's the problem. Whenever you lose, you forget. But she just clocks this girl across the forehead, and I mean, she's just out. Like it looks like she killed her.
It's insane because you think about it, like your leg is way fucking stronger than your arm.
And it goes farther.
Giant. This is the biggest, longest bones in your body. You have all this quad muscle, man. It's insane.
Yeah, the first lesson I learned in sparring was punches don't extend as far as legs. You know, like you throw a kick before you're in range to punch somebody. So, and you can always tell, like, you see a street fight and the guy is like throwing leg checks or roundhouses early on, and the other guy is just boxing. Like, that guy's in trouble. They're fighting two different styles.
Oh yeah, that was the one thing my buddy taught me years ago is like just the two things that you can do to avoid assuming you're past the point of like fleeing a fight that you shouldn't be in,
right?
Which you should always do because you might get shot or hit with a bottle or some stupid shit.
Some friend jumps you from behind, yeah. Yeah,
but keep your arm out because you know as soon as they can touch your hand, they're in punching range. And two, if you step through onto their knee, you can hyperextend it and then you won because they're fucking crippled now. So I was like, oh, okay, all right. Well,
yeah.
I usually just carry a knife, but
yeah, it's good to have. It's an equalizer, right?
Yeah.
My big thing is just talking my way out of most of my bullshit.
Oh yeah, no, I also don't. I don't start shit, and I don't intend to start shit.
Yeah, and most people don't want to.
The number one way to avoid all fights is like, I don't care.
It usually takes two people that want to do it, you know? And like, I've been in situations where the other guy wanted to fight. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to. He's like, come on. You know, like, they're sitting there with their shirt off. I'm like, put your blouse back on. Calm down. All right? This is stupid. I don't really care that much. All right? It's just, there's too much of a random element to it.
No, it's like, yeah, I mean, that's really the thing is you have to you have to assume that anytime you get into some kind of physical conflict, it's lethal because if somebody knocks you down, you hit your head, you're dead.
Yeah,
right? Or hit you with a bottle or somebody,
any bouncer, it happens all the time where some guy gets hit and he falls and he just hits his head weird and then
you're dead. Yeah, or you're crippled or something. You know, there's a video I saw. It was crazy. It was on Twitter a couple months ago, but there was this dude who's like screaming at this chick, and some guy walks over and like puts his arm around the girl and walks off with her, right? Because he was, he's like, oh no, stop yelling at her or whatever, right? And you see the dude walks over, that guy comes up and starts attacking him. He knocks that guy down. The guy that took the girl away, the white knight guy, that's what they all said, don't white knight because of this. The guy who knocks the other guy down, the assailant guy, dude comes up with a gun, shoots him, and he's dead in 45 seconds.
I think I've seen that. He kind of stood there stunned for a
second. The guy on the ground, he was like, ugh, and then he was dead. The guy on the ground, somebody started kicking him in the head, which is actually unfortunate because I don't think the guy on the ground would have shot if some random person hadn't started kicking him. Yeah. But then he was like, oh, well, I'm getting jumped. And then he just shot the dude. That was it.
Yeah.
And then, they just walked away. Like, the chick didn't, thank him or anything. It's like, no, you're dead now. No. Way to go, dumbass.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Yeah, it's funny because, like, you watch all these movies, you watch all these comic books and all this stuff, and it's like brainwashing these guys, especially these guys that are like way too into like gaming and comic books, and that's all they're doing. And they start thinking, like, all I gotta do is save the girl, save the girl and win. Isn't that save the cheerleader, right? Like in God, what is that stupid show? Heroes.
The best first season of a show ever, and the worst ruining of a perfectly good plot.
I was fortunate that I only watched like one episode, and I started hearing people say that. I'm like, I'll just cut my losses now. So
dude, if you just watch season 1 and pretend the show ended, it is one of the best. It was fucking awesome. It was just awesome. Maybe and then they answered all the secrets, and it sucked. So don't watch anything past that.
Lost is kind of like that, except I don't know where you stop because they never really have like a good place to stop.
Did you finish Lost? Because it was the same time, because Lost was on and we were into like season 3, and Heroes came out. They're like, oh, it's like Lost, except they actually tell you what's going on.
I guess I've always been this way. I despise like anything that's like super popular. So like when Breaking Bad was really popular, I'm like, it's not the best show ever, but I enjoy it. But I had the same thing with Lost, and I hated it, and I didn't want to like it. And the two guys I used to hang out with in college, like pretty much every weekend, they were obsessed with it. So I'd go over there, we'd go play some beer pong or something, and then they're like, oh, hang on, we're gonna watch the latest episode of Lost. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go crack open a beer and just I guess I'll watch this episode. So my first entrance to Lost was like watching like random episodes here and there, and like the whole time I'm like, none of this makes any sense. I don't get it. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't make sense to us either. Just watch it with us. I'm like, all right. And somehow I got dragged into watching it from the beginning, and I got really hooked into it. The character development's pretty great. Like there's interesting characters, and I like the character arcs. But then like the overall story arc, it's just they don't answer a lot of questions. I mean, I thought the ending was okay, but then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, wait, why was there a polar bear? Wait, why are they doing research there? What was up with that smoke thing? And then I found some website where it had like a list of all the questions. Like this one's possibly answered, this one's answered, this one's not, and like they didn't answer half the shit they bring up.
Yeah, so there's Lost is actually both Lost and Heroes are the perfect examples of if you're going to do anything with the plot, right? If you're going to write a story or a movie or a TV series or a series of books or whatever, you need to start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
You need to know what the fucking point is. And the problem is with TV shows is a lot of people write a cool TV show and they don't know if it's going to get renewed. So they don't write the endings. And that's why almost all American TV shows have no fucking plot and they're fucking procedural cop dramas. Oh,
yeah.
Wait, it's cops in New Jersey this time. Oh, wait, it's detective cops. Oh,
even the Sopranos,
cops.
even the Sopranos got guilty of that one because they originally had like the 13 episode arc from the first season, and it was very clear what was going to happen. There was like 4 big things that happened in that season, and that was kind of how they built the springboard. And then it was a huge success, and they had to do more. And I think they did a pretty good job overall, but there was a couple of seasons in there that I think I watched once and could not watch again. And then I don't know, I was okay with the ending, but a lot of people weren't. But yeah,
people don't like ambiguity, you know.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is like I don't. There's exceptions to this, but I don't like when people stop liking a show because it had a bad ending. It's like, well, you like 900 episodes or you like 90 episodes, but you don't like the last one, so you don't like the show anymore. Like, what does that matter? Like,
I mean, it's
how many shows are,
thing, you know?
yeah, there's a couple shows that I'd say would like ruin the ending. Like How I Met Your Mother is probably the worst example of it, to the point where I used to love watching that show and I watched it all the time. I'd watch the reruns and then I finished the show and it's like such a horrible ending that it ruined the rest of the show for me and I couldn't watch it anymore.
It's weird because, like, for example, Heroes, the reason why Heroes was good, and this is their original plan for it was good. They had the concept that they were going to bring on lots of superheroes and kill them off all the time. So they had people always coming in. It was more like a comic book, right? And then they were like, oh no, everyone likes the cheerleaders. So we're going to restructure the whole show. And guess what? Guess who the fucking worst people in season 2 are? The cheerleader and whoever the fuck Milo Ventimiglia's character is. And the main characters all suck. They killed all the cool people off and kept the shitty ones. So Heroes is what happens when you don't plan, right? And then Lost is what happens when you don't plan until season 3, and then you figure out what the ending was, and it got better towards the end, right? It has that one season that's really boring, and then it starts coming back, and it was okay.
Yeah,
right?
It felt like they were dragging their feet. Like it felt like they were just trying to fill content in, but I don't know.
You need to have an ending, and you always have to have an end game. Otherwise, it doesn't make it just doesn't work. You know, that's why George R.R. Martin, why everyone hates the TV show. I'm convinced that his plan was, I'm going to test my ending with the show, and I'll see how people like it or not, and then I'm going to finish writing the books and adjust it so that I get the ending that everyone likes.
You might be right on that. I haven't followed that show.
Out that Hodor shit.
I've only watched like 1 season of that actually, but I feel like that show ran into problems when the TV show outran the books.
Yes, because it's actually funny. Somebody made a graph, and the actual amount of dialogue is a linear like decline from season to season. There's less and less dialogue as the show went on, and they focused more on I don't know what, like action and shit.
It became like porn and gore and violence and shit. Like that's
it was. I mean, it was always that, and the books are like that too. But the problem is, so the books are way more like the books are awesome. By the way, the show is awesome. I read the books first. I think I watched the first season and then read the books and then watched the rest of the show. But the books are a fucking great, like the whole thing is awesome, but the books are way more fantastical. There's more like magic and dragons and crazy shit, and like 1,000 times as many characters and plot lines. And so I actually think that the book ending will still be cooler than the show, but I was one of the few people that thought that the show ending was fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to get through it.
A lot of people didn't like it, but it was also it felt very hasty, but I thought the overall ending was fine.
I feel like writing in general is getting worse. Like the average show, the average movies especially. I cannot handle movies right now. I used to enjoy them, and now I just go back and watch old shit. Like I cannot tell you how many times I decide I want to watch some new movie, and I just go back to my Vudu account and pull up The Social Network and watch that for like the 12th time, or Fight Club or whatever. The Social Network. Oh my god! If you want to see good writing, that opening scene of The Social Network. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, yeah.
The way the fucking
him and his girlfriend, right?
Yeah, they're sitting at the bar and they're like, they're both talking about like different things, and like he's over here and she's over there, and she's like catching up to him, and as soon as she catches up to him, he bounces to a different topic, and like it's so good at introducing like how awkward he is and how smart he is and how incompatible they are. They accomplish so much with like the first like 6 lines of dialogue in that one movie.
That was really good.
I've watched that movie so many times.
I think the problem, well, there's probably a number of problems with the writing and stuff, but really, if you look at I think the big problem with movies and all of that shit in general is that, like, if you're talking about The Rock, or when did that came out, in the 90s, right?
96-ish or so, yeah.
That movie probably had 1/100th the number of people involved with its production that a movie today has.
Too many cooks.
Like, yeah, credits used to be like 500 people. Now it's like, what, 4 or 5 songs worth of shit after a Marvel movie before you finally get to see the thing. And I'm not saying, I actually, contrary to popular opinion on Twitter, I love Marvel movies, and I love, like, hey, you have this thing that's about heroism and morality, and you're fighting evil by being good people. Like, I'm all about that.
It definitely misfires in a couple episodes. Like I cannot enjoy the latest Ant-Man movie, for example, but I know, and I'm weird in that one, but I know I'm not alone.
Marvel.
I don't like Captain Marvel either. There's like a lot
of
like
that URL.
I may have got, I don't know, I may have lapsed. I wasn't really tracking if it was worth it or not, but yeah, CaptainMarvelSucks.com may have been mine at one point. May still be mine. Anyway, yeah, that movie, it's hard to explain to people because it's like one of those things where you say like, oh, I hate Captain Marvel. And like, oh, so you just hate women. I'm like, well, no, I hate shitty writing. I loved Wonder Woman because that was a neat movie. There's a good character arc, and she stands for the right values. Yeah, Brie Larson's such a bitch. And there's some great like behind the scenes, or not even behind the scenes, but like interviews where like Thor is standing next to Brie Larson, and like she gets like this half compliment from somebody, and she turns it around into the negative and like responds this shitty way. It's like, all right, well, I'm not sure about this movie, but I already hate the main character, so that's not good. But it teaches a lot of like the wrong things in that movie, you know, like Wonder Woman's all about like embracing your strengths and growing as a person, and there's like flaws that she has to build, and Captain Marvel's just atrocious, you know. One of the, well, like the main theme of that movie is like embracing your emotions and your anger and all the other things that, you know, a woman might struggle with. And she's supposed to be fighting against like that. Was it Jude Law? Is he the villain in that movie?
Yeah, and plus they brought Jude Law and it made him a bad guy.
Yeah, but he's like supposed to be like really calm and controlling and logical, like a typical dude, right? And then like by the end of the movie, she's no emotion, like shitty acting. She's fucking like wooden as can be, and he is like screaming at her. I'm like, wait, why wasn't he the controlling guy? But they turned it around. They wanted to make it into this scene where it's like so much about the empowerment. They forgot the whole theme of the movie, and it just killed it for me.
It was a shame too, because like every other part of that movie was good. Like
it
Samuel Jackson was great.
Yeah, everyone shouted
was hilarious, right?
I love all the 90s references and shit in it. Like everyone told me how shitty the movie was, and like I got 2/3 of the way through it. I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm missing here. And then it got to the end. I'm like, all right, yeah, they kind of botched it up in the third act.
It just, I don't know. People just like, the problem is that people try to force stuff instead. Like,
Yes.
that's not, and actually on the note of like aesthetics and that, you can't force art, right?
Yeah.
You can't, like, and movies really should be treated more like an art form than they are. It's unfortunate. It's actually a miracle that good movies ever get made, because if you think about how many people have to be involved to make
Well,
a movie, period, it's a miracle that many people can make something good.
Marvel's a good example of like what's going right in certain places in Hollywood. When you look at movies like Iron Man, where it's got this amazing character arc from the beginning, and he has that shitty Iron Man suit when he builds out of the cave, and everyone's like, I mean, it's hard to explain this to people now, because when they think of Iron Man, they think of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. But when I saw that, I'm like, this is how I remember Iron Man. This is what he used to be like in the old comics and the cartoons. He's like kind of this goofy, lumbering robot. He was basically Bender with guns. And then, like, after that, he develops his character. He's starting to, like, you know, become a better person. He's got a purpose in his life now, even though he's still got his issues. And he makes this amazing, flying, super nimble, awesome Iron Man suit. And like, and that movie is super grounded. Like, when I think of like Avengers Endgame, it's a fucking cartoon basically. But Iron Man 1 feels like you could be watching this on CNN.
That was what made it cool. I mean, if you look at the two in that era, the two superhero movies that actually made superhero movies a thing, Iron Man, Batman Begins. You know why? Because they were realistic.
They were grounded.
Batman learned how to fist fight with Ra's al Ghul, which is the coolest part of that whole fucking trilogy. And it was very not fantastical. They treated it like a serious movie. If you look at like X-Men 1, the spandex and shit, like, come on.
That was because the guy that wrote that movie or directed it, I think it was the director, he hates comic books. So when he saw the uniforms, he's like, I'm not putting Wolverine in this like outlandish black and yellow outfit. I'm just gonna put him in leather, because remember the Matrix?
That was 2.
That might have been before.
That was until 2, wasn't it?
Like, I don't remember. Those movies are atrocious.
Kind of getting their shit together, but even then, the original X-Men trilogy was bad. I
want to go back and watch them though, because there's something about them I liked. I can't remember what it was.
They're fun.
They're fun.
But I thought like First Class and Days of Future Past and all of those, except for Apocalypse, was mediocre. And then I will not watch Dark Phoenix because that looked. I heard that they intentionally ruined Dark Phoenix because Disney wanted them to lose money so they could buy the property for cheaper or something. There's some kind of like.
I've had the same conversation, like I think I just had this with somebody else like recently. I'm pretty sure it was with James Dowling, and I haven't released the video yet. So maybe 2 videos in a row where we shit on Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, there's no reason it should have been bad, because like
it's a cool storyline.
Movies were good. Like, they were really
First Class.
Days of Future Past, First Class, those were awesome.
And Days of Future Past was fine. I felt like Days of Future Past tried too hard to link all the stories together like the Marvel Cinematic Universe did. And and it's like, well, I like the First Class part of it. And then whenever they would link back to like the Halle Berry X-Men, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember these movies. And like seeing them together, it's like, I remember how much better First Class is over these like shittier movies. But like the modern Marvel movies, and this is a problem with like almost everything, it's not just movies, but they've fallen into a trap of like, I know what works. I know how to make people happy. I know how to make a shitload of money. Fuck the art, you know, and you see it everywhere. But all right,
well,
fast forward 30 seconds if you don't want Marvel ruined for you, because this is horrible. I saw this the other day and it's so bad. Almost every single scene, especially with like action, anything in the latest Marvel movies, they do like this close-up shot of the face of the actors, and then they kind of blur the background, and it's just like this weird semi-CGI thing, because they're just filming from a green screen and it kind of looks like shit, and they're not spending the time to make it look realistic to go on or on location, and you don't notice it. But now if you go back and watch Endgame, you're going to look at this and you're like, motherfuckers, they phoned it in. And that's how they made those movies so fast. You can film that real quick.
Yeah, it was, I think people don't appreciate how much of an achievement the entire arc of that series was. And at this point, even if they did it again, it won't be that cool. So I've kind of like, I'm just like amazed
I'm good with them.
that happened. Cool, you guys got it. All right, you had what, 2 bad ones? You had Captain Marvel and Thor 2 were bad.
Yeah,
Basically everything else was good.
The way
You
they
know?
linked all the stuff and built up to Infinity War was incredible. I don't like Endgame. I enjoy Endgame, and I'll watch it over and over again, and I get a little tingly whenever I see a certain couple scenes. But I hate what they did to Thanos. They just ruined the character, and they ruined. Okay, so Infinity War, Thanos is very personal, right? Because he's the one that sent the Legion of Troops to New York. He's the one that made Iron Man have PTSD. He's the reason why Thor is feeling inadequate, and why Peter Quill has had to go on the search for the Power Stone for all this time. Like, he was like the puppet master behind all of their lives. And then you get to Endgame, and it's like, well, this guy doesn't even know who you guys are. And it's like, well, that's kind of a problem. Like, there's no linking the characters together anymore, and it felt hollow. And I think a lot of people don't realize it, because in their minds they're still associating the old Thanos with him.
Well, no, because he was even noticeably just like, I don't know.
Well, he literally says, I don't know who you are.
If there was a moment in they tried to do this, but they didn't do it right. There's a moment where Thanos like had an existential crisis when he realized that he succeeded and did all the shit, and it still wasn't enough. And then he was like unhinged after that. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Even if he didn't know who it was, even if you went fucking insane, right? But you can't follow up logical calculating Thanos. You need like, especially if you like mutated into some other shit, that would be cool. I don't know, whatever. But like some kind of just he fucking snaps and like rips someone's head off. That would be awesome.
Yeah. If you could like build up to the rage, but yeah, it was like it was weird.
You could kill the blue girl. That would have been cool.
Well, it's funny you say that, because like in the comics, that's more a part of the line, like because she kind of feels betrayed by Thanos. There was like there could have been like a neat moment where like they could have redeemed her character more, because she's like been built up as like this kind of like Loki, like Loki was always in Thor's shadow. So shit.
But Loki's endearing. She was never endearing.
I don't know. Take off the blue makeup, she's pretty endearing. But she was always living in the shadow of Gamora, and I think that's something that can ground the movie. How many people grew up with this older brother or older sister that always got all the attention and just tried desperately to get her father to pay attention, and they could have played into that a little bit more, but instead it's just, let's just make this movie all about fan service. Hey, remember Thor's hammer? Let's bring that back. Hey, remember how pissed Wanda is? That's great. Hey, remember female empowerment? Let's put all these women together in this one scene, which I don't know. Like, why did Captain Marvel need them? First off.
Well, yeah, like, didn't she like literally just destroy the one whole giant ship by herself? I don't know.
So I'm watching this, and it's like, all right, so I guess she's kind of got this from now on. And then like all the other people are using swords and shit. It's like, couldn't she just do this on her own? Like she just did it a moment ago.
Well, that's the thing. Writing. It's so arbitrary. And then one of the things that never really like made sense to me is like, okay, I understand Thanos is like 10 feet tall or some shit, but like, why the fuck is he everything proof?
He's like he's an immortal.
Yeah, what the fuck is that? Like
he's like on the level of Thor. He's like a god.
I guess, but that never really got it. So he's the mad. They said that like one time, and they don't explain it at all.
If you read the Infinity Gauntlet comic book, it's actually, they go into that stuff a lot. He's a much less palatable.
They should have kept the death plot, because
where he's trying to court death. Yep. They quoted that. They used that in one of the movies. It's one of the post-credit scenes where they say to find the gauntlet or something would be to court death, and like he turns and grins, and it's like, oh, I get it. Yeah. But he was such a beta little bitch in the comics. He basically grows up as this guy that was always getting like tormented for being a nerdy little weirdo, and then he's obsessed with death, who is an actual woman that looks like the Grim Reaper. It's actually a pretty good storyline, but
it's cool. You're
not gonna have girls on Twitter going hashtag Thanos is thick.
Yeah, I would have there was that's the problem. Is I really like, there's a lot of issues. Like Infinity War, for example, was perfect. That was fucking
I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I
was stunned.
And I'll forgive Endgame just because they pulled the whole thing off.
And I appreciate any movie that ends poorly. When they don't give you the typical riding off into the sunset ending, I'm like, finally, Finally, you subvert my expectations.
I love that they like fried Iron Man, and he didn't even get to say anything. He was like fucking dead. Like he was like fucked, you know?
It was gritty.
He didn't get to say, I love you. And he's just like fucked, you know, beyond belief. That was, I like the really raw fist of that one.
Yeah, I need more stuff like that. I need more like grittiness. That was done right.
That was awesome. Well, because it ultimately was his story, you know, and that was why it was cool, because it started with him and it ended with him. And it goes from him being a selfish asshole to being a good person to being like a really amazing person. And I loved it. You know, that was great. But they did not do Demon in the Bottle right, though. That was the one thing with Iron Man that they should have done better.
Demon in the Bottle?
So that's the Iron Man story where he goes on a giant bender and stuff. And it was too early into the Marvel series for them to make a really edgy movie. But like Iron Man 2 he's supposed to be a fucking lunatic drunk.
He was supposed to be an alcoholic, right?
Right. And they
it's weird because like certain parts of the movie they have it, but this is where I think Marvel goes wrong. They have these great scenes where like something horrible is happening. Like the party scene where he's acting like a complete fucking asshole. And he's getting drunk and he's like shooting watermelons in front of like civilians. But then they keep landing on jokes. So it's like I'm starting to like kind of like realize there's a problem and I'm feeling something. And then there's a joke. They did that with Endgame too, like when
they pull punch it. Endgame was way too funny. It was way too funny.
I don't know if I should spoil it or not. But anyway, when a certain character dies because they have to, you know, get the Soul Stone, which obviously this happens to at least one of these two characters. There's like a goofy raccoon joke. What's his name? Rocket Raccoon. They're like putting the stones on the thing and he's like boo, and everyone laughs, and it's like literally 60 seconds after this happened. It's like, wait, are you guys so afraid of anyone feeling anything that they might turn the movie off that you don't want anyone to experience a moment of sadness for like it's
there's no tension, right?
No, they don't want tension anymore. They want
to have tension.
They want quips, they want jokes. It's like Spider-Man's directing everything. Everything has to have like a funny little quip.
Yeah. That was
drives me nuts.
That was also part of the problems with like Justice League, where everyone was trying to be the comic relief. That was a terrible movie, though.
That movie was so bad.
Not well done. Part of the thing, I guess, ironically, it worked for Infinity War having the CGI bad guy, but like the CGI bad guy, Steppenwolf, which first off, like that's a terrible name for a bad guy. But
I was so confused by it. I'm like, wait, was the song Steppenwolf like the band? Were they named after this guy? Like, I don't understand it. I think the CGI bad guy worked in spite of him being a CGI bad guy in Marvel, but they also like
it was very well done.
It felt like Josh Brolin had like a weird purple skin condition. Like it felt like it was still Josh Brolin. DC just rushed it. You know, all they had to do was make like 2 or 3 more movies, and they could have made it work. But I didn't really know who the characters were that well. Like I know of them. Even
if you know them from like other stuff, it still was just like there's no, I don't know, it just wasn't. And then plus you have Ben Affleck Batman, who I actually thought wasn't the worst thing in the world. A lot of people didn't like him, but I didn't think it was the worst thing in the world.
Have you seen the new guy they're casting to be Batman?
Robert Pattinson.
He looks like he drinks Soylent Green. I mean,
I don't know
what's that shit that the guys can't open up?
I don't know how they're doing that one. It's weird because he's like I guess Christian Bale is also a serious actor, but Christian Bale has done like 50-50 extremely serious method movies and then like dumb shit, you know?
I look at Ben Affleck and Christian Bale. I'm like, man, I'd have to really get shredded and like spend my ass in the gym, and maybe
Ben Affleck was huge.
Maybe I could be Batman. I see Robert Pattinson, whatever the fuck. I'm like, all right, I guess I could be Batman now. Shit, anybody can. Yeah, Ben Affleck was huge. All the shit that he got, I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, he was. The funniest part of all of that is that Ben Affleck, for his entire life, that was the only thing he ever wanted to do as an actor. He wanted to be Batman.
Really?
He's fucking obsessed. Yeah, he's obsessed with Batman.
That's awesome.
He read all the comics. He picked a specific version of Batman that he wanted to play, which is the old Bruce Wayne, who's like real bitter and jaded and shit. And he got in super good shape. He was giant. He was the biggest Batman probably of all of them. There's the scene where he's like doing all the fucking like
I remember like slamming the hammer down the tire.
And
see, that's another scene.
Everybody.
I watched that. It makes me want to work out. I'm like, fuck, I want a hammer now.
Yeah. But it's like, man, can you imagine your entire career, your whole life? This is all you want to do. It's like, You're fucking the worst Batman ever.
People fucking shit on everyone. No one remembers this. This drives me nuts. I was bitching about this the other day to my girlfriend, and she probably didn't care. But people were fucking pissed when Heath Ledger got cast as a Joker. No one wanted him to do it. They're like, why do I want this fucking loser from Knight's Tale and 10 Things I Hate About You to be the Joker? Like, he's not scary. And then he dies. And then we start hearing some things. And then people were like, oh, they do that thing where when someone dies, suddenly they're like untouchable. They're like, oh my God, he's going to be the best actor ever. It's like, whoa. 2 months ago, everyone shit at this guy. And now just because he's dead, and don't get me wrong, that he was fantastic in the movie, but people shat on him like crazy before it happened. If Ben Affleck would have died before filming whatever those Batman movies were called.
People hate Ben Affleck. He's a unique
I don't know why, though.
People hate Ben because he's an asshole. I don't know.
I think half the reason people hate Ben Affleck is because those scenes in Family Guy where they show Matt Damon writing the script for Good Will Hunting and Ben Affleck smoking weed and farting.
I think it's just his personality type. He's just an unlikable ass. I don't know. But
then people love Jordan for being an asshole. I mean,
yeah,
he is unlikable. Jordan's likable.
Ben Affleck is not the Michael Jordan of acting.
He's not the Michael Jordan of acting.
Yeah, I actually like Ben Affleck. I think he's good and stuff. I don't know why people don't like him that much, but I find it very amusing. Yeah.
He's okay. I don't know. I think he's been good in some of his later roles, but like if you go back and watch like Pearl Harbor or something, he just comes across as whiny. What's that other? He wrote The Town, or he directed The Town, and that movie's fucking great. Like I don't care what anyone says.
They have the masks.
Yeah, it's like a bank robbery in Charleston.
4 Brothers or some shit. Yeah.
It's like 4 Brothers. It's a lot like that actually. Now you say
I'm not sure which one I'm thinking of now, but I think it's very similar. But
yeah, they rob Fenway Park at the end of it. Yeah, that sounds
like right up the alley.
Yeah, he plays a fucking Southie from Boston.
Speaking
of accent.
Speaking of Heath Ledger, I just watched The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus again this weekend.
I have no idea what that is.
It's the last movie he was in when he died. He died while they were filming it, and they had certain scenes where Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell play his character.
Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
I thought he died during The Dark Knight.
No, that was done. That had wrapped, and they were filming Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, which Terry Gilliam directed. He did a bunch. He was in Monty Python. He did a bunch of other cool shit, Brazil. But awesome. One of the most
I've never even heard of that movie.
Head trips of all time. So it's like you have the doctor. The doctor was a monk, and the devil shows up and makes a deal with him. And basically, they go back and forth for like 10,000 years, where the doctor gets immortality, but then he is miserable. So then he meets the love of his life, but then he makes another deal, and they go back and forth. But Heath Ledger's character shows up, and he's like kind of a sketchy dude, but he's helping him win souls against the devil, and it's awesome.
It's like your typical Faustian bargains and all that.
Except weirder. It's like a weird, quirky version of that. If you want a real Faust movie, there's a movie where somebody's like sawing a tree down or something.
You're good.
There's in the 90s, there's a version of Faust. It's just called Faust. It's not Dr. Faustus, but there's a shit ton of those movies. But there's one that came in the 90s. I was like 92 to 96 or something, that has no talking for the first 20 minutes. So you have no fucking idea what's going on.
I love it.
B, a claymation baby that turns into a demon. 3, very, very large wooden puppets at some point in it. It is the fucking one of the, I watch nothing but crazy movies. It's one of the most insane things I've ever watched. Highly recommended. Get fucked up and watch it. I don't know. I
feel like all you do is watch the most like insane, obscure, random, crazy shit. You like stuff with depth to it, though. Like I will give you that.
I prefer it. I also like weird shit for the sake of it sometimes. But I worked in a movie store for a long time, so not only I have like an encyclopedic knowledge of like actors and directors and other dumb shit like movie quotes and other useless stuff. But also I had tons and tons of like recurring customers who would just come in, and I would tell them, hey, you gotta watch this. They'd be like, oh, you gotta watch this. So
that's what's missing now. I mean, We used
You
to
know?
have that. You go to Blockbuster and it's like, hey, have you seen this fucking movie? And like the guy is like seeing what you're renting, so they know. Like they're like the original Netflix suggestions, but it wasn't like poison. Now I don't know what happened
Yes.
to Netflix suggestions, but I feel like money must be at play because like they don't seem as tailored to you as they once were, as so much as they're just trying to push their own bullshit or whatever.
The issue is that, so I was talking to somebody about this. I think YouTube had better suggestions before they added the algorithm.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was just what other people watched, the thing that you watch. Now they're trying to guess. And the problem with that is if you like very obvious mainstream shit, yeah, they obviously can guess what you like. Cool. But if, like for me, I never, ever, man, I spend probably more time on streaming services looking for stuff than I do actually watching it.
That's what's kind of killed Netflix for me. So I'm at the point now where like I don't watch anything until everyone's like, you need to watch this, you need to watch this, and like everyone's talking about Tiger King, and I hate to say I watched it all, but
was it good?
It was worth watching. It's one of those things where it's like become such a cultural icon during this time, and like everyone's obsessed with it right now. It's kind of interesting. So I normally hate those kind of things, and I usually shit on the people that watch it, but I walked down, the girlfriend was watching it, and I was like, 4 or 5 years in already. It was a Friday night, and I just sat down. I was like, what the hell is this Tiger King? I kept hearing people talking about it. Next thing I knew, it was 3 a.m. I watched the whole thing, and I never binge, and I never watch stuff like that. But
well,
it's just
it's
a fucking train wreck. The characters are nuts, and it's like M. Night Shyamalan directed this guy's life. It's just all these weird twists keep happening.
Yeah, I might actually watch it now.
It's funny.
I was putting it off. I was gonna watch it at first.
I would say watch maybe 2 episodes. Watch 2 episodes, you'll know.
I heard, well, everyone said you're hooked immediately. Like it's just like by the end of the first one, you're just hooked. But I have a hard time. So a lot of the times watching shit like that, where it's not really like there's no point to it, like it's funny and entertaining. I have a hard time with shit like that unless it's just like a dumbass comedy.
Yeah, I like those.
But like underrated classic, The Goods, Live Hard, Sell Hard. Do you ever see? It's like almost
Jeremy Piven.
Yeah. All the people that are like the B-list actors from all the good comedies from the 2000s made one movie together, and Will Ferrell's in it for like 3 minutes at the end. That is a gem.
That's up there. Gem. There's some weird shit like back in that era, like Mystery Men. Have you ever seen that one?
Yep.
Jim Breuer's in that one for like 12 seconds.
Part where they melt the guy's head. That fucked me up.
It's a weird movie.
That was traumatizing. I remember that. I was like, what the fuck?
There's some weird shit. The latest Star Wars movie has some like scenes in it. I'm like, this is for kids, right? I'm like, what the fuck? Like there was a couple scenes in it that were like, this reminds me of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like this is just gratuitous violence and gore.
I did like I thought surprisingly that trilogy was like got better as it went. I really like Last Jedi had some weird moments, but
they had 2 different directors. It's stupid.
That last one was awesome.
I enjoyed it. The people that get upset about it, I am one of those people. I get upset that they've killed off all the like assertive, dominant male characters. They're like, well, this guy is too strong of a character. We gotta get rid of him and let the girls shine because now it's girls' tower. I mean, all right, whatever. And I don't hate Rey, but the writing.
She has no personality.
Oh, good thing I know how to fly everything perfectly. Oh, good thing I'm also a mechanic. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, what are you not good at? You just grew up on this fucking island or desert where there's like no water, and yet you can even swim. Does nobody
realize that like the Mary Sue stereotype is just as bad as like not having strong female leads? Like, if you're gonna make one, make a good one. Don't just, she's good at everything for no reason. Like,
I hate it.
I hate it so much. It's just bad writing.
It's bad writing, and that's people like you hate it because you're late. You hate it because you're sexist. I hate it because it's lazy writing. Like
it is. It's so bad. You know what's the problem? You know what's weird is nobody was ever like, oh, there's no funny female comedians when Tina Fey and Amy Poehler were doing stuff.
They're fucking hysterical.
They're hilarious.
I love them.
Yeah.
I don't say this.
The problem? It's goddamn. What's her face? You know who I'm talking about?
Anita Sarkeesian.
Huh? No, I don't know who that is.
I don't know. I could pick a lot of people.
The
Amy Schumer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the worst.
I cannot stand her.
She's not funny.
No. Contrary to popular belief, I am an enormous fan of the movie Mean Girls because it's fucking hysterical.
That's a hilarious movie.
It's fucking great.
Classic.
Yeah, I mean, I remember how I guess my sister's probably watching. I walked in one day and I see like the opening line to it or the opening scene to it. I'm like, all right, I don't know. This seems kind of funny. It's
Dude,
fucking great.
they hit that bitch with the bus at the end. That was so
Oh my
goddamn
god.
funny.
Oh my god. That movie had some great lines. And on the third day, God created the bolt action rifle so that man could kill the dinosaurs and homosexuals. Like, Jesus Christ. If they wrote that today, can you imagine?
It would suck if they wrote it today. It wouldn't.
Yeah,
It
they'd be
wouldn't
afraid of
exist.
offending people.
It just would suck. The dynamic of the movie would be different. It would.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah,
They,
no, the Star Wars movies are okay. Like, they were never great movies. Like, everyone likes to put them up on this pedestal. They're fun. They're really fun, and Empire's pretty great.
The idea
like,
of Star Wars movies is awesome.
Yes.
The actual movies are like, I appreciate the quirkiness. They do not hold up. Like,
I mean,
2001: A Space Odyssey holds up.
Yeah,
that's still a masterpiece.
That
right?
book is fantastic,
Star Wars
by the
is
way.
Like,
it's fun. I like fun, Star Wars.
Weird.
I like watching it like with kids. Like, I think that's the way it's meant to be. Like, you got these like 40-year-old adults with like comics everywhere and all the like action figures everywhere. It's like, dude, quit complaining about this show and let the kids have it. Like, I love that line where Kylo Ren's like, let the past die, kill it if you have to. But I hate that line because Disney can't fucking do that. All they do is they keep saying, hey, remember Chewbacca? Hey, remember this? And they keep throwing out all these references. And my God, the last one that came out, I actually kind of like the movie because it's fun, but it's like nonstop member berries. They're constantly throwing out references from all the other movies, and your typical midwit person, sorry if I offend half my audience, they look at it and they're like, I like this movie because I'm thinking about all these things that I watched earlier. Like, it's nostalgia, it's fun, and nostalgia's great sometimes. Like, I think the occasional nostalgia is fun. The way they did it with The Force Awakens was like somewhat subtle. This movie was like the whole movie.
See, Force Awakens, the issue I had with Force Awakens was that it was like literally the same fuking movie as the other one.
They did it once. That's why the issue. Like, I could do one because they had to blow up the Death Star again. But then the next one's like Empire Strikes Back, kind of in reverse. And then this one's Return of the Jedi. Minus Slave Leia.
Yeah.
So we got robbed of that.
Ultimately, the problem with all of the Star Wars shit is that, and you can look this up, somebody made a very good, like, 12-minute long video about it on YouTube, but Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be the bad guy.
Yeah, Darth Jar Jar.
Episode 3. Yeah, that would have been the single greatest plot twist in the history of movies.
Yeah.
Right? But
yeah,
George Lucas is a big old bitch. He couldn't commit. And that ruined the second trilogy and set up everything else for being cop-outs.
Yeah. I'd like that. There's some weird... Yeah, if you guys want to go down a rabbit hole, go to Darth Jar Jar on Reddit. And I never recommend Reddit. And just, like, look up the weird videos. There's that one where he's, like, Force talking? Like, he's, like, doing the Force.
Yeah,
I forget who he was talking for.
It would have been awesome. It would have been like... Fun. Dude, that would have been so cool. But no, God damn it, nobody can commit to telling a story that doesn't immediately pay off. It's the same problem with Marvel.
How weird is it that George Lucas like couldn't commit? Like, that guy could not be in more of a fuck it mode. Like, people hate him already. He's getting old.
You know why? You know why?
Because people don't like him.
No, because the internet forums had just appeared on the scene at the time, right?
Dude,
so unlike movies before, in the 90s, you didn't have 100,000 people online bitching about shit. Right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine now. Can you imagine you're a director and you just have social media everywhere and vlogs and everyone complaining about the movie that you spent years making, right?
They bullied the girl in the Last Jedi. I forget her name, but like they bullied her to the point where she just like got off social media. Like, it's sad.
That happens a lot.
It's depressing.
Terrible.
Dude, people say shitty things. I see it too. Like, it gets directed at us, and
what a stupid thing to get oh man, you ruined my movie series that I identify with. What a fucking loser you must be.
Exactly. That's a sad identity. Like, you can't identify as a movie. Like, what the fuck?
I'm trying to be less judgmental, but man, what a fucking loser.
It's okay to like Star Wars. It's one other thing to be like that upset that it ruins your life. Like, that's fucking dumb.
just like, I don't know, I guess the big philosophical takeaway from our Hollywood debate is just don't identify with fucking pop culture shit beyond, unless it's Anchorman, in which case, if you don't like Anchorman, I don't like you.
Well, movies used to like not be about like woke politics. You know, it was about the artist's message, and sometimes the artist's message is pretty fucked up. Like, what's the message of Fight Club? You ever think about that? Because it gets lost on people.
There we go. You want to have a philosophical debate?
Yeah, let's do that one. I personally, there's two big things that I take away with Fight Club, and I think both of them are lost on most people, because most people just kind of, it's like they worship the first half of the movie and ignore the second half. Because one of the big things about the movie is how this guy gave way too much into this, wanting to be this Chad alpha, you know, fuckboy, whatever, and they let themselves chase it too far. It's like they overcorrected. So they went from being this little bitch that was just sitting around watching TV and shopping all the time to being this guy that got rid of everything, just mindlessly fucks this girl and doesn't give a shit, and then becomes a domestic terrorist, basically. But at the end of the movie, you know, what are you left with? The guy still gets the girl, but he's a little bit more balanced. He's more assertive. He stands up for himself. Like, that's what they're trying to tell people. They're trying to tell you to get off the couch, go out there and meet a nice girl and actually live a life. And then number two, what else is still left at the end of Fight Club? No one brings this up. It's weird.
That Project Mayhem has literally just nothing has changed. Yes.
Fight clubs, they still exist. They want you to have your
Project
brotherhood.
Mayhem was literally headless. Like, it's designed to run by itself. What the fuck did they think was? I don't know.
I think they were hinting at the creation of 4chan. Did that come out before 4chan? I'm not sure.
I think so. Here's my
young
thought.
Jamie.
So I think that Chuck Palahniuk, that book is the defining. That book really, really gets at the heart of the crisis of masculinity in the modern age. And it took a gay dude to write it.
Probably the book more than the movie. Is Chuck Palahniuk gay?
Yeah.
I think it's weird how there's multiple gay men that can write about masculinity way better than other men. It's kind of funny how that works.
Well, it's like
Jack Donovan.
Yep. Yeah.
He's fantastic. I read 3 of his books before I even knew he was gay.
I didn't realize that I knew who he was, but I went through my bookmarks recently, because I've had the same bookmarks on my computer for like over a decade, and it turns out I had his website bookmarked years and years and years ago. Back when I was reading like Art of Manliness and all the other blogs that became MasterSelf. But no, so here's the thing. He really, really hit the nail on the head. It's like, okay, we have this crisis of, if our fathers were our role models for God and our fathers didn't like us, what does that tell us about God, right? That's the central theme of the movie.
Yeah.
If we don't have, A, the fathers failed, right? B, we don't have a good positive male role model. Right. So that, I don't know if you want to extrapolate that to having something to do with Chuck Palahniuk's life. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily jump to that conclusion, but it probably has something to do with it. Right. But the basically what you have, the narrator is a child. He did what was expected of him. He did all the stuff. And they say it's the one scene where it's like, oh, I asked my dad, now what? Right?
I don't know. Go to college.
Yeah.
All right, Dad. So now what? Every guy has had that conversation with their dad, right? You know, like there were so many times in my life where I grew up and like I didn't know what to do. I was flunking out of college. My first semester, I was on active probation. What do? I call my dad up. And he happened to come down, and we sat in an IHOP and had breakfast together. I'm like, hey, I'm flunking out of college. Now what? You know, and funny enough, he had a pretty good answer for me. But how many guys don't have that? They just think they're going to flunk out. They're like, I guess I can't do college. And then they go work at Blockbuster or whatever. I don't know why I'm referencing Blockbuster twice in one fucking 2020 podcast.
I miss Blockbuster, to be honest.
I miss it so much.
That was the best. I would much rather have a Netflix than the Blockbuster that I could walk around in. Honestly, I would pay for that.
That'd be so cool. Yeah.
I would literally rather pay to rent movies physically and pay per movie in a Netflix building than use the service.
Well, here's what you young bucks are missing out on. Like, I don't think I ever went to a Blockbuster and didn't see somebody I knew.
That was what we did every Friday night for like high school. Is you just drove down to Blockbuster, you did that, you got some Domino's, back with Red Bull pasta sort of thing.
Yeah.
But so
yeah, let's get back on topic. We're gonna get down a weird rabbit hole.
Yeah, we got to get some actual philosophy in so people don't think I just watch movies all the time.
Movies are art. I stand by that.
Well, here's the thing. This is where everyone gets fucking. This is the dumbest thing in the world. Is that everyone's like, oh yeah, you got to read the classics, and then they ignore pop culture. It's like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, first off, with very few exceptions, the number of classics being written now is way slimmer than it used to be because the medium has shifted. The really compelling stories, like, go watch The Fountain and tell me that's not the most profound movie you've ever seen. And there are some people that have probably a couple other profound movies, but that is fucking on that list. That's a miracle of a movie. It should not have been made. It's so bizarre and confusing. Like, that's a fucking amazing movie. Anyway, Fight Club. So the problem is, if the narrator is the child, right? Tyler Durden is teen angst incarnate, right? He's the rebellious masculine teenager who says, fuck the rules, fuck society. I'm just going to do the opposite of what I'm supposed to do, right? Rebel against the office job, because it's ultimately it's the grappling with nihilism. It's like, okay, God doesn't give a shit. Now what? You have a fucking desk job and you shop at IKEA and your life is meaningless. Now what? Right? Okay. Smash this shit. Okay. I sympathize with that. I think that's a better answer than staying at your office job.
Yeah.
However, it's not a good answer.
Yeah. And they're also, I'm seeing this in like every fucking movie I watch now. Maybe it's because I've read 12 Rules for Life, but you got the order of his life where he's in this neat little filing cabinet of an apartment working this generic job that, like, back in the 90s, like every, 35-year-old dude worked. Now it's becoming a little bit more obscure. And then you got the chaos of Tyler Durden. Like, the first time you see him, he hops off the plane and jumps into some random Camaro and steals it and drives off. It's, you got this like order and chaos, and they're not saying which one's right. Is it right to have order? Is it right to have chaos? They're both wrong. Go all the way to either extreme and your life is going to suck in completely different ways. But at the end, they kind of merge together, even though he kills off the chaos. But he's learned from Tyler and taken what worked with him and put it into his life. And now it's, go ahead. You want to?
Here's the problem. I don't think that Chuck Palahniuk figured the solution out. And I think that is why everybody kind of knows. Like, the ending is good. It's a good climax. They build up the tension. It's very good. But it isn't, you don't feel like the emotional payoff is satisfying because it feels like something's wrong. All of a sudden, you have this guy who's been very happy to do this shit the whole time. And then for no reason, now he's not okay with it. Here's the problem, right? I think he on some level realized what he was suggesting, what he was writing, and he was afraid of that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I know that's true. Have you read the second book?
Yeah, I know it's true too, because it
despise that book, and I never ever mention it
because it's an apology. Because he knows what he started, but he was being honest. It's a
deconstruction of Fight Club because he had guilt.
Yeah, because he was in his fucking writing clubs and got kicked out. He writes some crazy shit too. So of all the people that would be willing to be honest about stuff, he should be. And I think he was afraid of what he created. But here's the problem. What he comes face to face with is there isn't an easy answer for these things, right? So what does Edward Norton do? Go back to his fucking day job at the end and settle down with Marla Singer and make a housewife out of her?
That's what he suggested in Fight Club 2, and they despised each other over it.
It's horse shit. It's not. He copped out.
Yeah.
He copped out. The problem, and here's the thing, is I'm not saying Tyler Durden is the ideal character. In fact, Tyler Durden is the problem that has to be dealt with.
Right.
But he cops out because he thinks he can kill that part of himself. You can't, right? That part of you is always there. So either you actually kill yourself or you learn to deal with it. And B, what are the implications of that? Okay, you're a normal person and you have this like terroristic cult leader part of you. And I'm not saying necessarily every person has that, but the raw, chaotic, masculine destroyer energy, like Big Shiva energy, right?
I think a lot of guys want that though. Like, they don't necessarily want to light cars on fire, but tone it down a couple notches and get rid of some of the crazy shit. He basically created a frat and they go around doing these like funny pranks and then like beating each other up. Aside from like a few way over the line things, especially the ending where they blow up the credit card buildings, but like at the beginning, they're like feeding birdseed to pigeons to shit on BMWs.
Yeah. Well, because it's teenager shit. So here's the problem, and this is the thing that is completely unresolved throughout the series. I haven't read 3. I want to read 3. Is 3 out
There's
yet?
a
I know
there's a third Fight Club.
he's making a 3rd
Oh,
one.
for
Yeah,
fuck's
I'll
sake!
read it anyway, even though I thought 2 was stupid.
I will too, probably.
So
It's my fiduciary duty.
the issue is that really, okay, you have the child, you have the teenager, there's the absent father, and I guess that's part of the theme of the book. But ultimately, at no point, even his kind of like taking responsibility at the end, it's still like it doesn't fit the logic of the story, because it implies there's an implicit 3rd stage. So what he does is say, I'm going back to being what I was before. I'm getting rid of Tyler, right? What really is on the other side of that is the complete person, right? How does you rectify the fact that you're this normal office guy who doesn't necessarily want to be a terrorist cult leader, but you also want to fight against reality, and you're fucking passionate and genuine to genuinely believe in something, right? Because that's what he kills. He kills genuine belief, because the implications of genuine belief are terrifying, right? We don't, in modernity, the thing that we all have issues with is not that the world that we made is meaningless. It's that we accepted a meaningless world, because to actually believe in something means you have to be willing to die for it, right? We live in a world that's safe, and safe is meaningless. Meaning is dangerous, right? Can you imagine, like, there are lots of religious people in America, but how many people are as committed to that as, like, say, a jihadi guy, right?
Oh, almost none.
No one in
that's
the country
1%,
has that
maybe.
kind of belief, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the Westboro Baptist Church, and they're fucking idiots, right? But that's the thing, that we can't relate to that concept at all. Can you imagine actually believing something so much that you're willing to fucking die for it or fight for it? And what we don't have that, and you need that. And that's the problem, is now ultimately you have a world that doesn't matter that much, and you settle for your credit card companies or your fucking Marla Singer housewife scenario. It's confusing at best.
I don't. Yeah. That I think the interesting thing about Fight Club isn't that the ending. I don't think you need a good ending to have a good movie. Like, I can accept that.
I love that movie anyway, regardless.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah, but I think it took something that was so ingrained in the human mind, and it just nudged it loose, where everyone just accepted the way the world was. Because, man, if you remember the 90s at all, life was good. Everyone was happy. We had shopping malls. We had Blockbuster. Pizza Hut was the best pizza. And we were happy with our, white picket fence, 2.3 kids, Toyota Camry, whatever bullshit we had. And then that movie came out, and 20 years later, we're all still going on like, wait, no, fuck this. Is this all there is? Like, how many times you sit there and you look at yourself like, is this it? Is this all there is? And I don't know if there is an answer for it. I think I've been relentlessly trying to find it for the last 10 years or so of my life, pretty much since I graduated. Because, when you're a young kid, it's always about the next step. Then you go to college and like, all right, now what? Then you graduate. All right, now what? It's like, I want a Ferrari. Guess what? You find that Ferrari, you drive around a couple times, you're like, all right, now what?
Look at Jim Carrey. There's a quote that he had years ago.
The older I get, the more I empathize with him.
Yeah, he said, I wish everyone in the world could be rich so they realize it doesn't solve any of your problems, right?
Yeah.
And now he's like, now he's like Alan Watts, and I think he's like very much entry-level spirituality. Like, okay, man, get back to me in 10 years when you do the hard part. But I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it. But no, you nailed it. It's like, dude, I'm at this point. I've done fucking. This is startup number 6, and even if we had it where it works out and I'm a millionaire, and then I can go spend my time doing the shit I actually care about, like, I'm so disillusioned with all of this nonsense, Yeah. I just don't, I don't know. There's the way that we're approaching things, the way that the modern world is constructed. I don't think that the answer is more of it. And here's the thing. I also don't think the answer is moving backwards. So I think this is the weird part. I think that we can't just, I don't know, you can't be like the neo-reactionaries and just say, hey, let's just have fucking a king again. Because, and honestly, like, I would probably take in a fair choice a king over democracy, just because that has the potential to be way more fun. I think just that sounds cool. But realistically, it's a much shittier system. Democracy is a terrible system, right? And
I think kings work until you get the successor. I think that's when it usually gets fucked up. You know,
we just watched Gladiator the other day.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Marcus
That's
Aurelius.
actually the best. That is the example for why it doesn't work, because you had the actual philosopher king. You had the best guy in charge ever, and his son was the fucking worst. Like in real life, Commodus tied together people to pretend they were monsters, and he would just hack their limbs off for fun.
Jesus Christ.
Right? And that was the best, one of the best people ever. That's his kid. So there's no way you can tell me that system functions, right? It just doesn't work. So the thing that is weird, or I think that the part about moving forward, and this is kind of part of why I'm not on Twitter right now, and part of what I'll be talking about more when I come back, is that we actually have to move in this direction where everything is a different kind of individualism. Because before, I thought that you could just have, oh, hey, here's my team of the people that like individualism. But actually, that's the illusion. That was kind of where Ion Media didn't work the way that I wanted it to, because I thought it would be, oh, we have this vision for the world, and we are all passionate, we all care about shit, and we can make stuff that matters and is meaningful. And if you make good stuff, people will care about it, which they don't. And all of that. But ultimately, the problem was that by making our team, that we're automatically excluding everyone else. And you create this kind of dynamic where it's us and them, and you start to lose the individuality, and you lose your reasons for doing things. And so my whole thing now is that just committing to remaining completely independent, right? I'm not gonna be on anybody's team. I'm not gonna fucking fall into the trap of picking this side or that side, and then accepting the consequences of that. Like, let's go. I'm gonna try something different.
I think it'd be good to get you focus back on your own philosophy and your own writing, the MasterSelf. Like, your writing was better when you weren't distracted by all the managerial bullshit.
Yeah, for real. If you look when everything fell off, it was when the 3 months that we did all shit for IonCon. It was like, I didn't write anymore, really.
Yeah, it's tough. That us versus them mentality thing is interesting because it's something that seems to be in our DNA. There was this is not a movie, it's a real story. There was a group of really smart scientists that worked together, and they wanted to create this biodome. You know, this big giant glass dome.
Oh, this is a true story. Yeah, that happened, right?
Yeah, and it had trees and plants and animals and all sorts of weird shit in there. They're doing scientific experiments, but they locked in the scientists. There was like I want to say it was like 8 of them, and they were all locked in there, and they had to work together. But they always worked together. They liked each other. They respected each other. And this thing lasted, it was supposed to last like 18 months. And part of it was like the idea of, could we do this on Mars or whatever? And then like 3 months in, they had to let everybody out because the 2 groups of scientists formed into 2 separate tribes and got to a point where they despised each other so much that to this day, they refuse to talk to each other.
It's very interesting. So
is there something in our DNA that like forces us? Like, we have to have 2 separate camps. Do we have to? What if one's wrong? Right.
All right. So you asked, is there something in our DNA that makes us split into tribes?
Right.
Well, tribes in and of itself, there's Dunbar's number. Like, literally, your brain has a certain amount of mental capacity to really deal with about 150 to 250 people, but on average, it's lower. It's 150. So there's that. But on a more interesting note, there's what I've been reading about recently. I tried to read a book called Things Hidden Since the Foundation of the World by Rene Girard back in 2018. And I got halfway through it and I was like, this is bullshit. I didn't like it. Recently, I finished it finally, and I would not have understood it if I read it 2 years ago or whenever I was trying to read it, but I had life experiences that I then was able to understand the book through. So Rene Girard basically proposes that well, this is all what's called mimetic theory, like mime, M-I-M, not meme, like memetics. So mimetic theory is the idea that we do things, there's like your team and the other team, or just you and another person. And the way that we learn about other people is by imitating them. When you imitate someone new, you actually offend them, and then they begin this process of tit for tat escalation because they're offended, right? The best example of all of this stuff that you can use that's current right now is the left and the right. So basically, when we try to understand other people by imitating them, I think in the second article I ever wrote on my website is we can only understand others to the extent and in the manner that we understand ourselves. If you're going to understand someone else, you have to imitate it. You have to act out the thing, right? You have to engage with it by doing it, and then you can get it. Or we can sympathize with people theoretically. Like if I know you got your foot cut off, that probably sucks, right? I can say, I don't know what it's like to get my foot cut off, but I can imagine that sucks. But you can't really empathize, right? Yeah. You don't know what it's like. So all of our kind of human experiences are limited. That's solipsism. The solipsism, technically, the belief that only one's own mind is real. But ultimately, when I use solipsism, I'm saying that we have this really hard time believing in other people's experiences when they're separate from our own. We really have a hard time engaging with them, right? And so basically Girard says you get the mimetic conflict. These two sides start escalating tit for tat, and they get more extreme and more polarized. And then that approaches the mimetic crisis, at which point it's so polarized that violence is either occurring or about to occur, right? Some extreme form of riots or whatever. And these two sides end up picking a scapegoat who is innocent, murdering them. This causes the two sides to reconcile, and then historically they mythologize the figure. So I think one of the examples that Girard used was there's the story of the founding of Rome, which is Romulus and Remus. Obviously, Romulus is the one that it's named after. They were both allegedly suckled at the teat of a she-wolf, and I forget exactly what happens, but if I remember correctly,
what they do is they basically find this group of people, like 10 or 12 or 20 people or something like that, and then they put them all to sleep somehow, or they poison the men. And they basically kill off all the men, and then they take the women home or whatever to start the country. And that's how Rome started. It started with two drunk idiots deciding to go take some women, and then it grew.
Basically, I don't know. So that would be one of those areas. No, a better example is Prometheus, actually. Sorry to switch on there. That is a good story you should read. But Prometheus, I love the figure of Prometheus because he represents like the innovator. He's the person that's going to go figure the thing out, and he does it for the good of everybody. And then they fucking say fuck you, and then they chain him to a rock where a vulture eats his liver forever.
Yeah.
So Girard would argue that Prometheus was probably a real person. And in the fact that he was a real person, there was probably some kind of conflict where these two sides picked him, murdered him, and then mythologized him. And that mended the rift somehow. Something about this, they collectively lie about the thing. They create this figure who is then given the power to save them, quote unquote. But really what he's doing, the figure is doing, is allowing them to lie about the fact that they murdered some guy to get the bloodlust out, right? And so Girard says that basically we do this nonstop, and that almost all religions have this at their root somewhere, and we deny that fact, right? However, his argument is that Christianity, the real purpose of Christianity, or Jesus the person, was that he understood this process and he voluntarily allowed himself to participate in it instead of being kidnapped and sacrificed, right? He let it happen. and that by doing so, his purpose was to expose the corruption of it, to show us the mimetic cycle, right? So it's really interesting. Basically, if you understand like the climate of biblical Jerusalem, right?
Yeah.
There were
Somewhat.
Rome was occupying. They had military power, but they had rebellions all the time, and Pontius Pilate was in charge of preventing rebellions. Right? He's presiding in the area, and so you have this conflict between the two groups that are very strange, like all the poor people of Jerusalem, and then the Romans who are oppressing them, and this is escalating continuously. And so you notice that they keep trying to say, oh, Jesus is like this rebel leader, or he's this aggressive military force, because if they can demonize him and he says, I pick this side or I pick that side, then they can justify their actions, right? But he stayed independent. He says, I'm not going to fucking do it, right? I'm just here to teach people stuff. I'm not getting involved with your shit. We're not picking sides, right? The act of doing that, when he says all the stuff he's saying is basically self-improvement stuff. It's like, hey, if you're going to, tell somebody about the mote in their eye, you should probably pull the beam out of yours, right? It's like, who are you to judge because you have your shit to get together, right? If you live in a glass house, don't throw stones or whatever. Or he who is without sin cast the first stone, rather. So the idea is that all the stuff he was saying is actually just get your own shit together, right? He's not telling anyone, oh, you should go fight the Romans. He literally says, give Caesar what was Caesar, right? So the thought, or I guess the thing that came out of me reading all this, and the part that really sold me on it, Gerard says there's a word which is scandalion in Greek, but it's where we get scandal from, right? A scandalion is a stumbling block, right? So there's a biblical line that says, like, don't put a scandalion in front of a blind man because he can't retaliate, right? He doesn't know who did it. But one of the other concepts is don't become a stumbling block for other people. Don't make yourself a stumbling block, right? And so the idea is that if, say, you and Benji are fighting for some reason, right?
Okay.
If I pick your side, then I force Benji to turn against me. If I pick Benji's side, I force you to turn against me.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's not about whether the other two people should or shouldn't have a conflict. It's that you, by getting involved, cause other people to act worse, right? So the only thing you can do as an ethical choice is to not pick a side, to not enable other people to make bad decisions, right?
Yeah.
So it's crazy. I don't know. If you get into all of this, then you realize, wait a minute, look at American politics. It's the same thing, right? It's
and everyone wants you to jump in on that too. They say, oh, so you must be a Trump supporter, or oh, you must really hate Trump. And it's one of those things where you're not allowed to have an opinion just because you get forced into some camp. And in reality, it's like, look, man, I haven't really been watching the news lately, so I'm not sure what you're putting in my mouth, but I don't have a dog in this fight to the extent that you do. And most people, I think most people are pretty sensible in that they tend to lean one way or the other, but they're mostly in the middle. But it's weird. People have been like programmed to join a side, and they've been forced. Like, you have to either, resist or MAGA, join your team, red versus blue. It's just really dumb shit.
Our system is designed for that. That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
That's the fundamental issue with democracy as it is that it encourages, well, basically, if you think about, okay, if the fundamental force that decides who's in charge is the largest number of people possible, then you encourage the candidates to be people who appeal to the largest number of people possible. And if you think about the kind of things that appeal to the largest number of people possible, it's generally the dumbest shit on earth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the most popular thing on cable television? That is probably a good example of what is the worst thing on television.
I have
right?
no idea, by the way.
I don't know. I haven't watched cable. I've never paid for cable. I don't know. I like
probably The Bachelor.
Right, which is like, what the fuck? It's terrible. But so the nature of all of the modern world is based on how do you make stuff that appeals to the largest number of people possible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it makes bad choices. Guess what? Like, if you think about, look at the major inflection points in American democracy. It's okay. You get FDR because he mastered the radio, right? You get JFK because TV was introduced to debates, right? You get
and Trump was the first to really master social media
because he's a fucking reality TV star. He turned he turned politics into reality TV, right? It's the same thing. Yeah. So we've actually just encouraged the kind of person that appeals to the most number of people, not necessarily the best choice, right?
Yeah.
In that, and then honestly though, I figured out one way that you could fix it overnight is if you had an election and you counted every person that voted as well as every person that didn't vote, and all the votes that were the people that didn't vote, all of those votes counted as a vote against all of the current candidates. And if there were more people that didn't vote than any of the candidates got votes, you just pick new candidates. You'd fix it overnight because they would have to actually be good, right?
I don't know if that would work. I mean,
don't
people always not vote? I mean, how many people vote? It's like 37%. I like the idea and concept.
At the very least, if we had some kind of system where we could at least acknowledge, like, hey, these choices are bad. That's the problem, is nobody, like everybody, I don't know. I don't know anyone who legitimately loves the candidates. Like, no, there are people that do love Trump, but like.
Yeah, but I don't know a lot of them. I agree with that.
No, I think most people have a nuanced position, right? I know a lot of people that hate him, but I don't know a lot of people that love him. But if there was an option for people to say, hey, both of these are bad, right? And not technically, like an actual, I refuse to engage.
Maybe that should be a vote. So you can vote for the right, you can vote for the left, and there's also a both suck. I want new choices.
I think you have to account for choosing not to vote as a choice as well. I would include that somehow.
It's just, they're always the majority, though. Or at least they have been lately.
Well, guess what? Then we don't get a president. If people don't like not having a president, then they'll probably come vote. But
probably worked pretty good.
Imagine we're having a party, right? And you and I decide that we're gonna make everybody pay for like some very specific kind of curry to eat, right? And everyone else was actually just brought their own food or something, right?
Yeah.
But we, for some reason, have the ability to make everybody pay for it.
Okay.
And nobody else shows up to this discussion that we've decided to have, right? And we decide, or maybe enough people decide, like 3 of the people decide that it's going to be this weird kind of curry. Now everyone has to pay for it, even though none of them participated in the process, right? It's
pretty much what happens in American politics, though.
That's it. I mean, I think, and we don't acknowledge that. We don't acknowledge that choosing not to choose is also a choice, right?
It is. Yeah. Well, you started seeing that a little bit but it only went one way. People will be like, well, if you're not going to vote, then you're basically letting Trump win. It's like, well, what about the other people that aren't voting? They're letting Hillary win. Like, it's going both ways. I don't know.
It's all part of that stumbling block thing, because once you've decided to play the game, you have to justify it to yourself that the other people are bad, because otherwise you can't justify your own choice that you're not exactly happy with, right?
So you get these people that decide not to vote for either candidate to absolve themselves of the sin of whoever shitty person decides to become president, which, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've done that before.
Yeah, I've actually, the only time I voted was in a local state election against the NV Energy monopoly Warren Buffett has a monopoly in the state of Nevada on energy that Tesla and some of the casinos and some other people are trying to overthrow because they wanted to supply, or Tesla to be able to do something about that, and they lost. But I did vote for that. I have not voted in a presidential election. I probably won't.
So speaking of votes that matter, what do you think about Tesla reopening the plants in California, despite what the governor said? Right?
I love it, man.
Yeah, it's our
Honestly,
modern day
here's the
whiskey
thing.
rebellion.
I'm not even going to say whether that's the right choice or not, but I love that he's doing that because I'm all about civil disobedience.
Yeah,
right?
I respect his right to do it.
Yeah, God damn it. If the implication that somebody like, I like the idea that people have to play out the logical process of, hey, I'm going to do this nonviolent act, and somebody's probably going to come arrest him for it. But really, you arrest people because they're a threat, not like a threat to harm someone, not because they're doing something you don't like.
Well,
so I want to see them play that out.
Here's my issue with it, and they can't because it's life's a popularity contest, and the father of X-A12 is pretty popular, but you can't. They're gonna try and fine him or arrest him or do something, and they're gonna act. Whoa! We're not being violent. We're just saying that he can't do this and he shouldn't do it. It's like, well, you're being violent. It's a derivative of violence. It's under the threat of violence because if he doesn't obey the law, a bunch of big jackbooted thugs with MP5s show up, and all of a sudden this kind of looks violent to me. It's like this happened with Waco, Texas. You know, these guys have this cult, and you know, not exactly saints down there, but they're not causing problems yet. And all of a sudden we got tanks rolling around, and they're firing off tear gas that ignite, and there's guys that are militarized. You know, it's. I think something's happened to this country, and it used to be a big deal, and then it suddenly kind of stopped being a discussion. But this police force got insanely militarized because of the war on drugs, and then because of terrorism, and now it just is. Like, no one questions it. But I mean, cops used to look like they belonged in your neighborhood. They wore like a nice blue dress shirt, and they looked approachable. And now it's like, Jesus, dude. Did you guys get Bin Laden? What's up?
Undercover cop cars. That's the thing that gets me. It's like,
you don't like undercover cop cars?
No, it's like you're obviously, well, I mean, for other,
probably trying to get you speeding.
Yeah, right. But you're not there for the help the public, right?
Yeah.
That's not why you have undercover cop cars. You have undercover cop cars to hide and then get people fucking speeding tickets, right?
Yeah, it's like their little. You know,
like literally secret fucking
game
elite, right? Like it's the Stasi. What the fuck?
That's an interesting one.
I mean, shit.
What bothered me was when
they have tanks and shit.
That's what bothers me, when they bought the MRAPs, when they bought the mine-resistant, ambush-proof tanks. Then they show them off at the fucking parades and shit, and all the kids are like, "Look at that awesome tank!" And like, I mean, yeah, but
you think it's awesome now?
It's exactly. Those things are fucking crazy, and they love to show them off too.
It's astounding because it's just like so much of this is due to preventable issue. Honestly, if you even go through like the history of drug laws, they're almost all racist, right?
Yeah,
Opium's illegal because they said that the Chinese had opium dens and they were raping white girls, and then like pot is illegal because they said that Mexican immigrants had hash dens and they were raping white girls, and then there's pretty much they did this the whole time.
They got one standby that seems to work for them. Yeah.
And that's it. And that's the history of drug laws.
Well, the whole weed thing just goes back to fucking William Randolph Hearst wanting to sell his paper. You know, that's all it was. He didn't want cheaper hemp paper coming in. It's amazing that 93 years later, people still fall for that bullshit. They still don't understand why weed's illegal. And I'm not even I'm not really a weed advocate. Like, if it was legal tomorrow, I don't think I'd smoke it, maybe. But it's not really my thing.
I wish I liked smoking weed. I really do, but
it's a much less harmful drug than this one. So, but I am.
Right?
I am who I am.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish I liked it, but I already think enough. And if I smoke weed, then I just get like 20% dumber, and then have the same thoughts that are just not coherent. And then I just go sit in a corner and don't talk to anyone. It's not fun.
Yeah, I do like that. I mean, at least for me, it's not addictive. Like, I don't smoke it and then decide I'm going to do it the next day. I've never had that feeling. So, unlike cigarettes.
Or any number of other things, you know, shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting there. It's getting legalized, you know. So it's an essential activity now. They have to legalize
it's
it.
the problem. I mean, part of the issue is that it literally is not something that the government should have the purview to make the decision of.
I agree.
It's like the notion that someone gets to tell you what you can't do with your own body is beyond comprehension. Insane.
That's an interesting way to phrase that. But that's the real issue with the Karens, isn't it? It's somebody standing up for these people that want to take away your rights. Like, why do we need the government to make other people do things that you want them to do? It's like when you see a couple of kids playing with a toy and one kid's like, I want that toy. And it's like, well, he's playing with it. Why don't you mind your own business? But these Karens are so, I think a lot of them are either women who are not parenting anymore or women who never parented, and they've got that biological urge where it's like, I have to make them make the right decisions. I'm doing what's in their best interest because they don't know any better. It's like when your mom's like, look, you don't know how bad cigarettes are, so I'm going to stop you. I'm going to force you to be a better person. And it's like, look, let me figure it out on my own. I'll get there. Don't worry. I'll fuck it up.
I mean, that basically goes back to what, you know, that's the whole idea is like, hey, deal with your own shit. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's so simple. It's really in every single instance, you can ask yourself the simple question is, am I a perfect person? No. I guess I probably shouldn't fucking worry about what that person's doing then, huh? Because I have shit to do.
Yeah.
And every single argument to the contrary is a person lying about that fact. It's believing that you're somehow good enough that you get to make decisions for other people.
There's a big problem. Yeah. There's a big problem now where the ends justify the means allows people to make shitty things happen just because they think that they know what's right, you know, and you see that with so many things. You see it with people saying, you know, this is why we have to close down everything, because what if somebody dies from corona? Like, holy shit, how will this country ever survive? Like, I get it, but the effects that they have done to this country already are not going to be felt for probably the next 7 months. I don't think until next year we're going to realize the kind of damage we did, you know. And then what will happen is whoever happens to be president, they'll be like, why did you do all this stuff? You just crashed the economy over the last couple of weeks. It's like, no, we crashed the economy when we shut it down. I saw some tweet the other day. This pissed me off as a person that understands basic math. They said that unemployment in this country might be 20% or higher. So I got out my handy dandy calculator, called my head, and thought about the 165 million people that are working. And I put that at the bottom of the fraction, right? And then I took the 30 million people that filed for unemployment, you know, the 30 people that just filed for unemployment, not kind of the other people that already weren't working. And I put that on the top of the fraction, right? And I did this like equation, and it came out to a number higher than 20%. Like, I don't know how people can't see that basic math. It fucking blows my mind. It's clearly at close to 30%.
People don't care about facts, man. Like,
it's crazy how politicized something as simple as the unemployment number has become.
It's it's all the same thing. This is what I've realized. It's all the same exact thing, and it all comes back to people think that something X, whatever X is for that person, gives them the right to make decisions for other people, and it's fucking literally not. None of those things do, right?
Yeah. Just mind your own business.
I agree with that. Everyone gets that in theory too. Everyone's like, oh wait, if you made yourself a better person, the world would be better. Everybody gets that in theory, and then they just don't connect the dots of like, wait, you mean I actually have to fucking do something instead of just nod and click like?
One thing that's really interesting that I've seen is, people always say like, oh, I don't have time. Why aren't you in shape? I just don't have the time. Why don't you eat better? I don't have the time. Why don't you start the side business? I don't have the time. Everyone got the time over the last 6 weeks. I don't think people by and large got better. Statistically, if time was the one thing that we needed to make ourselves stronger, more fit, more successful, we'd see people looking like Greek gods right now. But I look around at places that should be like some of the better groups, like not a fair random sampling. Like these are people that actually have been trying, and I look at them, they look worse. I think almost everyone by and large is getting worse with more time.
Yeah, I mean, so I personally have lost a shit ton of weight the whole time, but the last 2 weeks or so, I've like definitely having a bit of a crisis of willpower. But I think it's mainly because I just am so sick of like trying to pretend I'm going to the gym with my 140-pound dumbbell. I don't know, but the no,
that's the real problem. Is the dumbbell shortage in this country.
Yeah, no, Vic was talking about.
I've got like 6, and they're a hodgepodge of numbers. I got 20s, 40s, 45s, and 165.
I just want a bench, man. Can I just get a bench?
I do have
like
a bench.
A rowing machine, that would be cool.
Yeah, I was gonna buy a rowing machine the other day. I didn't realize those were sold out.
I bet. Shit, everything's sold out.
I mean,
you gotta go on Facebook Marketplace. It's easier, but
eventually.
I have 2 things to the time thing. One, there's a comic somewhere, I believe Zen Pencils did it, but it was Zen Pencils is awesome if you've ever seen. It just takes good stories and writes them out. But there's one where it's like people always talk about whether or not they have time.
Oh, I have seen this. I love this one.
There's it's a whole thing. It's awesome. But there's one part where it's like a dude with his legs blown off in Vietnam trying to write a letter. It's like, if you actually wanted to do the thing, you would just fucking do it. And I'm sitting here saying this as I realized I was talking about how I'm bitching about not writing. And so really all I can do is blame myself for being a lazy asshole about it. But
yeah, you can find the way. It's the same as like if there's a will, there's a way, you know.
I've started doing other stuff though. I've taken up, as of last night, I've taken up sculpting.
Really?
I always wanted to do it. And so for one of my birthdays when I was still living with my parents, I bought like 10 pounds of modeling clay or something. And I never did anything with it. Right. And I always wanted to do it though. I love the medium. I always wanted some kind of art thing to do. And I occasionally write poetry. I like that. But I also drew for a while. I don't like drawing as much. But I always wanted to sculpt because it's so, like you actually can control the stuff directly instead of like painting where it's fucking it's so abstract.
Yeah,
you know? It's like a concrete, tangible thing. I like it, you know.
Yeah.
So that's something I started doing. I started doing yoga, which is pretty cool.
I like yoga.
But what was the other thing about time I was gonna say? So that was it. I always liked that. That was like, hey, there's a guy with his legs blown off who wrote something, and you're not fucking writing because you don't have the time.
There's another one. I think it's Zen Pencils where they say, this guy says, "I want to be a millionaire," and the guy goes, "You do? What do you do with your day?" And the guy goes, "Oh, I sit on the couch for a little bit, and I watch some TV, and I drink my coffee. Then I go to my job, and I help people file insurance claims. And then I come home. I usually watch some basketball. Sometimes I play video games." And he goes, "Well, I think that's what you want to do." He goes, "No, I want to be a millionaire." And I go, "No, you want to sit around and drink your coffee, and then you want to help people with their insurance claims, and you want to play basketball and play video games. You do what you want to do." And like the guy is like arguing with him. It's like, well, everybody can do whatever they want, but what they really want is what they do. And it's people, and everyone will. There's certain people that just can't quite comprehend it because they haven't accepted that they have agency in their life. So they'll say things like, well, I can't because I have kids to feed. And it's like, yeah, but you're driving a Lexus. You could probably downsize and you could follow your dream, but you want to drive a Lexus.
There's a shorter version of that has the same sentiment that somebody once said is, in the end, everyone gets what they want, which I love that because that's my reminder. It's like, okay, if you die and you're a loser, it's because you wanted it. So deal with it.
Weirdly enough, I got to that same conclusion, thank God, at an earlier age, playing the video game BioShock. Because there's a great scene in that game. Yeah, there's this amazing scene in that game where they kind of brainwash you. They don't brainwash you. It's just how video games work. But every single thing in that game is a person in this voice in your head telling you, hey, would you kindly turn the elevator on? Hey, would you kindly shoot this guy? Hey, would you kindly whatever? I played this in 2008. I don't remember. And then finally, there's like this big reveal that you find the big bad boss of this underwater city named Andrew Ryan, and he says, "Would you kindly?" And it forces you to kill him over the head with a golf club because you were conditioned by this "would you kindly." And the meta thing is, you play these games and you just blindly do what you're told. And the neat part about that is you start thinking like, "Oh my god, this isn't just the game. This is how I live my life. Like I'm constantly doing what other people are telling me." And you have a little existential crisis there for a couple of weeks. You don't touch the PlayStation. You start reevaluating life decisions. You look back and it's like, well, I think I have some changes I need to do.
But see, that's something I struggle with because, like, on the one hand, I think more than the average person, I think I could probably demonstrate this just with my resume. I think I tend to try and do more of what I think I want to do, right?
I think
and
you do.
I think so.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is I always feel like there's got to be something else that I'm doing to hold myself back, right? There's
I think the fact that you ask that question means that you're somewhat in control of your life more so than most people. Some people never ask that question.
Maybe that's just what I tell myself. I don't know. These things tear me up, right? This is the stuff that really I think about.
It's like that scene in The Matrix when he knocks over the vase. It's like how much control of your life are you? You don't know. There's no way to know.
So here's an example. Okay, here's an example. So years ago, so I graduated high school early, just because I don't know, high school was a joke, and
I didn't know that. I'm impressed.
Yeah, no, it's just like 6 months early, and I had lost my license like 3 months before that, so because I got a speeding ticket going 116 to 55
to an undercover cop.
No, just a regular one. There's like 4 of them. My rear window was frosted up while I was doing this, so I didn't see them following me for several miles. So by the time that it was defrosted and I started slowing down, because if you're going 160 miles an hour, it doesn't really matter who's behind you, right? Yeah. There was 5 of them, and then I went to jail. But it was cool. I don't know. I talked to the guy. He thought I stole the car because I recently got the title transferred. And I was talking to the cop on the way there, and he was like, "Oh, well, you seem like a nice kid, so I'm going to reduce it." I still lost my license, but anyway.
Holy shit.
So graduated early, got a job painting because I didn't have a car. The only thing I do is work with my neighbor, and I did a bunch of weird shit for a long time. And eventually, I was working on the hair straightener kiosk because I wanted to learn how to be good with people and sell stuff, selling hair straighteners to people in the mall. And actually, that was a lot of fun a lot of the time. And I don't know, my social life was miserable. Everyone was fucked up all the time, just drunk. That was all we did. There's nothing to do in my hometown because it's a shithole.
Most people do, though. Like, no matter where they grow up, it's weird. I've seen people do this in Chicago. It doesn't matter where you grew up.
It just sucked. Well, anyway, so the only reason I went to school was to get out of my hometown. I was there for a year and a half total, and I hated it. I didn't want to go anyway. I was done with school when I was in high school because it was like, man, I can teach myself better than I can learn here. And, I read more books between the time I was in high school and college, after high school and before college than I did while I was in college. I didn't care to learn anymore. I don't know. I don't like the environment.
I don't either.
The reason why I bring that up is I have a bunch of outstanding student loan debt as well as, credit card debt, other kinds of debt. The thing that I always tell myself is, the reason why I keep doing all this dumb bullshit is because I have this debt. And I'm kind of in this weird spot because I really don't know how, or maybe I do and I just don't want to do it. But the number one thing that would make my life better, I think, is if I could find a way to get out of all this debt, which is like probably $35,000 maybe dollars worth of debt. If I could get out of that debt, then I could just like go fucking be homeless across Europe or do some crazy shit. That's what I want to do. I want to go do nonsense,
So I've come out from under debt before, about the same amount actually. And then
you got a useful degree.
Yeah, I did. So I picked an economics degree, and my thinking was I thought about this really hard when I was in college. I was a much more like intelligent and driven, not driven, but more focused person at the time. My whole thought was, what's the most money I can make for the least amount of effort I can put in? And like, obviously it's economics, because one, if you're thinking that way, it's an economic thought. And two, it's pretty, if you're like somewhat math inclined, it's a pretty easy degree to get. And it tends to be very well respected. I would say it's like, you know, monetarily wise, it's like up there with like lawyer and doctor, you know, like it's, you know, maybe not, but you don't go to school as often or as long, and you don't spend as much money getting into it. So it kind of pencils out depending what you do with it. It made sense to me at the time. It's worked out okay. But anyway, I did this, right? And then my whole thought ever since this happened has always been, I need to get enough money to cover my yearly expenses so that I have this burden of, you know, having to live off and I can do whatever the hell I want. And at one point it was like, I don't know, 50 grand a year, probably a little less. Then I got a little older and it became like 80, and it just kind of kept scaling, and I never seemed to get it. Like whenever I would get closer to it, I would just kind of like push the fence a little farther back. And I start wondering now, again, it's like you're in your head. I always wonder subconsciously if I'm trying to keep myself so interested and motivated that I never let myself get there. Because
dude, I see, that's the thing. Like, I think, I don't know how much of this shit is subconscious. How much do we do to ourselves, right?
Well, and I've said this before. I said if I ever won the lottery, I think I would give so much of it back that would still make my life hard. Like if somebody gave me $10 million tomorrow, I would either spend most of it or give most of it away to the point where I had to get up in the morning. Because I don't want to be able to do nothing all day.
I think that, you know, maybe that's it too. I don't know. But the thing that I don't like is that I would like a different kind of hard. I want to go do fucking, I don't know. I miss living in the tent. Honestly, that was the greatest time of my life.
That might solve your problem. Go live in the tent. Your expenses go down. Still find a way to make some money. I mean, hell, if you can make, how much are your expenses living in a tent? I mean, if you can make like $1,000.
My rent is already so low that it doesn't really, it wouldn't make that huge of an impact. I actually optimize my life to have as small of bills as possible. So I
don't have kids.
My car's paid off. Yeah, right. My car's paid off.
I tried that for a while. It's fun.
The issue, I guess, the thing that I run into that I haven't really figured out the way around is that the kind of like really not going out and doing anything fun, right? I'm afraid that, okay, say I spend X amount of time like saving and I don't do anything fun. I save all that money and I fucking, you know, pay all the shit off. What if I just missed out on life doing that? Okay, now I'm 30 and I have no debt, but I don't know. But on the other hand, is it the other way around, that now I'm slowly wasting all this time not taking care of the shit, and I'm not going to solve the problem this way, you know?
Yeah, I think you're fine. It's such a, that's a number you can get past though. Like some of these people have 120 grand or more in debt. I know people have way more than that. You know,
my buddy actually paid off like I think 80 grand in a year or something.
Did he live with his parents when he did it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not digging him. I've known people to do that, and it's like.
But he, I mean, also, you know, like did lots of freelancing and shit.
It probably take like 4 years to pay off if you're like really trying to pay it off living on your own, or you just live with your parents and probably do it in like 2 years. Maybe, you know, depending on what you're doing. You know, I don't regret not living with my parents, but I'm a little envious in that a lot of European families tend to be multi-generational, and I'm not at that age yet, so I can't guarantee this, but I think I'm going to give my kids somewhat of an option where it's like, you can live with me, but it won't be free, and there will be, you know, rules. But as soon as like rules come into play, it's like, no, I'd rather be poor and live on my own, because that was my thought. I didn't want to live with my parents, even though they would have let me, and I didn't need to.
Yeah, no, it was. I've always, you know, getting out of the house, I enjoyed that, and I got a lot out of it, you know, because when I started living with my my one ex and her. Well, she was my ex at the time, obviously, but her.
You only have one ex
that I lived with. Her family. It was cool at first because it was, I don't know. That was a weird time in my life anyway. But
what time of your life is not weird? Yeah.
Well, by whose standards? I mean, like when I was at Tesla, that was relatively normal. But on the other hand, I had like no social life, so most people would say that's not normal. But I wrote all the time.
I think that's pretty normal.
I don't know. That was relatively normal. Colorado wasn't normal.
Social lives are overrated. Most of it's like superficial, you know. Like I think I've connected more with people I've met online than I've connected with anybody I've met in the last couple of years in real life.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It's like, it's nice being, I'm fairly like asocial as is, although I don't seem like that. And I don't actually, given the option though, like when I was in the desert or when I was in Reno, right, pretty much only made friends with people from work, and that was it for a year and a half. And if I had stayed there, it probably would have been like that. It's like my barber and like
that was
people that I saw on a day-to-day, like a weekly basis. I don't know.
That's one of the problems I've been like trying to fill with this whole path to manliness thing, because it was something I struggled with. You know, it was like, how do you make friends as a guy? You know, as an adult. Basically, you have two choices. Like, you have more than two choices, but most people default to two choices. One, you go out drinking, you find drinking buddies. And two, you hang out with your work buddies, which, God, it's basically like having your friends, but then like their mom is always watching you. It's like you don't know if someone's going to narc you out. You always have to be like a little bit more PC. Whereas like you go with your high school friends and you're like, hey, what's up, dickhead? Hey, did you put on like 20 pounds? Like, what's up, man? You look fat as shit. You know, it's just a completely different dynamic.
Yeah, it's just weird. And part of the thing too is just the way the modern world is just constructed in such a shitty way for all of this stuff. You know,
it's not
there's
good.
One of the projects that we have is Nova, which is supposed to be like a way to build, like construct buildings in such a way that they're more community centered and concerned with that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way we do it now is such shit. It's just bad.
Mostly, not all.
Not all.
One little hack that I did when I was younger, and I probably should have stuck with it longer. I got frustrated with paying rent and wanted to buy a house too soon, but I should have stuck with my original idea. I always lived in college towns, because college towns are structured in a way, especially when you're in your 20s, it works. As you get older, but they're structured in a way that's more like what you're talking about, Nova, where it's community centric, it's more walkable. You can find a place to live where you can walk to the gym, to the bar, to a restaurant, to a coffee shop. Like, I used to drive to work and then never touch my car again unless I wanted to leave town. And I was really happy doing that. European cities are built that way more. America's, we're all invested in the car and the interstates and the cul-de-sacs. I don't know. Part of it's because we all want so much. You know, we all want a yard and a big ass house. Whereas if you would settle for like a small studio apartment, like you can have a lot of cool amenities.
I mean, I live in a closet, so yeah, you know, I get that.
Yeah, but aren't you like running distance from like a lot of cool shit downtown and like?
Oh yeah, I'm right on. I have the best deal in the world, basically. Yeah. I'm walkable to downtown. Although now I don't really like. After all this, I don't really want to be that close to downtown anymore. I don't really.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I mean,
there's like some article got trended on Twitter either yesterday or today. I can't remember. I read it today. It was talking about like the death of commercial real estate downtown. But then if you read the article, it's like company. The example they gave was ridiculous. It was a company that had 1,000 square foot of office space in some city, and they wanted 5,000. And then because of Corona, they're going down to 3,500. I'm like, all right, so you tell me a story about this company that tripled their office space, and it's the death of fucking commercial real estate. Like, what the hell? Clickbait, man. I think that's another big part of the problem. And there's two facets to it. One is that they make these clickbaity articles, and then two is people don't want to fucking read.
That's
like,
that's something I get thinking about too, man.
I know like people say like they don't have time for shit, but like if I go to a site that's really clickbaity, like BuzzFeed, I stop going.
Well, that was the thing. You know, here's a depressing statistic for you. So the #1 article on my website last year is the article that I posted on January 1st, right? I did a bunch of promo in the last 2 weeks of December for that. Like, I had a contest and everything and really built up to it because it was a big deal. And it was released on the first day, so it was out the longest of all the articles that year. Right. The #2 article, which came out 6 months later, was 8 movies that will change your perspective on life.
I'm going to write the same article, but it's going to be 9 movies.
And it's going to get fucking 5 times as many hits.
Maybe I should.
I mean, you should.
I'm writing it down. I don't know if I can think of that many movies that change your life. Or the movies.
Let me think.
I don't want to steal them. I'm just curious.
The Fountain is. I'm going to think of the best ones and go backwards. So the Fountain is the best. Cloud Atlas, second best. I don't remember if I put Fight Club on that list or not. I don't think I did.
Well,
there should be. There you go. That could be your 9. Big Fish, because that's a really poignant movie. It's Tim Burton's best movie in my opinion. Mr. Nobody, because that one had a plot twist in it or an unreliable narrator. The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus is on that list.
Dude, I haven't seen a single one of these movies.
Theorem, which is also a Terry Gilliam movie. Same guy who did Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
You watch weird shit.
Yeah, man.
See, mine would be so much more like pop culture. It'd be like embarrassing, like how, but like I get like dumb shit. Well, not all, like Fight Club, and then Layer Cake. That's probably my favorite movie.
I haven't seen that. I've heard that's good.
Fucking awesome. I love it. This one's stupid, but if you like, think about it, it's not. Yes Man completely changed my life.
I love that movie. Yeah, I tried that out after watching it.
Yeah, I did too. I used to be this like really antisocial, introverted kind of person, and like I tell it to people now, and they're like, "Are you fucking with me?" I'm like, "Oh, I was," and then I went to college. I drank some more, and I watched Yes Man, and I was like, "I should try this." And I took it like him to the extreme. Like, like one time, one of the more extreme ones was I had a friend at work say, she calls me up, and I was hungover as shit. I was not in the mood to do anything. I was gonna sit at home and watch. I want to say Netflix, but Netflix was a disc that came by mail at the time. But anyway, she calls me up, and I didn't even answer it because I was in the shower. So all I had to do was ignore my voicemail. But she called me up and said her dipshit son was too lazy to go to Cincinnati with her to pick up this car. And I was living like in Indianapolis. So this is like a 3-hour drive on a Saturday morning. And I call her back. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I'll go help you pick up the car. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, no, I'll go. It's cool. And it wasn't like I was trying to get laid. It was just a friend. And I was thinking, you know what? This probably won't be that fun, and I'm hungover, but I don't know. Maybe somewhere down the line, this will be just good karma, and that'll be good enough for me. And she's helped me out with some other stuff. Like, she was a cool person. So I go with her, and, it's a road trip. It's kind of fun. We're having a good time listening to music. And then we get down there, and I'm like, hey, why don't we go hit up some restaurant or something? Let's do something fun. So we went to this like little went to Hofbrauhaus, it's a little German beer garden. There was some crazy soccer game going on in there. There's like a shitload of European people like screaming at the top of their lungs at 1:00 in the afternoon. Everyone's getting drunk, and we're just having a fucking ball of a time, man. And that was like 8-9 years ago, and I still remember like all this fun, stupid shit we did, and all I had to do was say yes.
Yeah.
What would the other memory have been if I had said no? It'd have been me sitting at home watching some movie for the umpteenth time or something. Like, I wouldn't remember that. No.
Yeah, that was that was when I was dropping out of school. My buddy called me. He was like, "Hey, here's a funny story." So originally, I knew I was gonna fail out of school. Like, I literally, like, my GPA, if it was 66.6, you fail out or lower, right? I got in my second semester 66.7, which meant I was still around, and I was like, well, that's a sign. I'm just gonna fuck around this semester, right? So by the end of it, I only went to piano class. No, I stopped going because they started trying to teach theory. I don't like music theory. And I went to creative writing. Because that was what actually became my website, right? I got back into writing. I learned to like it again because my teacher literally said, you can all get 100 as long as you give a shit. I don't care what you write, just try. And I was like, oh my God, I love this,
Wow. What was your major?
Business. I actually got into.
You're taking creative writing and piano classes.
I hated it. I went for business marketing or something, and I actually got into a fairly prestigious business school. It's Poole College of Management at State, which apparently nobody gets into as a immediate. However the fuck I did it, I came late and in the spring semester, and they said nobody does that. I was like, oh, cool,
wow.
Right. I was quite good at school. I just don't like it.
Yeah, no, sounds familiar.
So I was basically towards the end of the semester, I was like, okay, well, I don't really have any kind of a plan. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I hate this, right? So my plan was going to be that I was going to write John Allison, who's the former CEO of BB&T, a letter, because I always liked him as the CEO, and he's a very moral dude. Like when the banks, they did the bank
BB&T.
Yeah, this is stupid ass theory, all right. But I also was pretty fucked up the whole time. So I was going to write him a letter and say, hey, I will literally shine your shoes for the rest of my life if you let me become like your indentured servant or something. I just don't know how to pay off this debt or whatever.
Okay.
Which seemed like a good plan. It was a terrible plan. But my buddy fortunately called me right before the end of the semester and was like, hey, you want to start a business? I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we did that for a year. And then I was doing some other shit, and he called me up. He was in Colorado. He was like, hey, you want to move to Colorado? I was like, yeah, let's fucking do it. You know?
Yes, man.
Yeah. So when I was in Colorado, I was working in a microchip factory, and the guy who was training me to use the furnace was like, why don't you go fucking work at Tesla? You'll get paid more. And it's Tesla. I was like, all right. So I went and lived in Intent to do that.
It's fucking crazy. Yeah, I remember thinking it was so cool you worked at Tesla. I don't know.
It was cool. It was cool in theory. It was really just a factory job. So it isn't actually like cool in the way that people think it's cool, but it's still cool.
I'm starting to see
I've seen Elon multiple times. He's very large.
That's fucking
cute,
dope.
Dude.
Yeah, he's like 6'4" or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you would not. It's just you don't get that impression from TV, but he's a big motherfucker.
Yeah, but, I'm starting to see Teslas now, like in the road, so it seems more normal. But I remember, like when you were first working there, and tell me about that. It just seemed like a futuristic thing. Like, oh yeah, I forgot that Tesla actually exists in the real world. It's not just like this fantasy idea.
Oh, it's crazy, man. That the Gigafactory in Sparks is like the biggest factory in the world, and had like, I don't know, there were like 6,000 or 7,000 people that work there. So, you know, across all the shifts, and it's so cool. Like one of the things that I really appreciate is, this is due to my experience with managing people, is that when somebody can make something like that work, I think it's amazing. If you could, I don't know how the fuck you get thousands of people to agree and work together and make something that cool, right? Yeah, I know that.
But no,
see, my
even that's hard.
Like, how do you get people to do stuff for free?
Well, you can do it to some extent,
but
you get what you pay for.
It's just awesome. It's cool, man. It's like cutting edge everything, and
like when I first started writing, I still don't quite understand how I even became what I am. Because like at first it was just me writing in a journal, and then it became this, I don't want it to just be on a journal. I think it'd be cool if it was online, and it just got out of control. But when I first started doing it, I kept trying to do things for free, and I was always frustrated. It wasn't working right, or I didn't get a result I liked, or it was just a shitty product. And I'm like, it's not working. Maybe I'll pay a little bit. And sometimes that worked. And if I pay like a decent amount, it's like, oh, this is awesome. You know, like I got lucky on the logo, but I didn't pay nothing for it. And then email services, that's been a fucking hodgepodge. But whenever I've tried to like do something, taking the cheap route is like cost me so much fucking time that it hasn't been worth the money I could have spent the first time. And that's been like one of the harder lessons, which is stupid because I should have learned that when I was younger. And I did learn that when I was younger. I just didn't apply it. That's one of the benefits of getting yourself in a position where, you know, you don't have to worry about money as much. Because man, I've seen people like literally fuck their future self because they just didn't want to spend like a few bucks more. You know, like I can think of times where somebody would buy a tire, they had a tire burn out in their car or blow out in their car, and then they have two options. You know, they can buy like the $85 tire or like $100 tire, and like the $85 tire is only gonna last like 100 miles, or like 1,000 miles, and the $100 tire will last you like 12,000 or whatever. It's like, how is this a question? Just buy the more expensive tire. And they're like, I don't have enough money. I'm like, look, I will give you $15 more if you just pay me back like later. Like I can't watch you do this. You know, it's frustrating to me, but like sometimes you don't have a choice. I get that.
Yeah, being broke sucks.
I'll bet. You can live in a tent, solve your problems, right?
No, I don't think it would actually solve my problems because I like that too much, and I can't I have to assume that any solution to my problems has to be something that I don't like. It's the only thing I can imagine working, right?
You're like addicted to putting yourself in challenging situations.
Yeah. So
I don't think it's a bad thing.
I remember reading once, or somebody told me this. They were like, Bill Clinton, he got off on finding ways to get himself into impossible situations and get himself out of them. And so that led me to believe that the whole Monica Lewinsky thing was actually his idea of like, I bet I could get away with this shit too, you know?
I'm glad you went there, because I was about to.
I always related to that, you know? Because my thing, so what part of the reason why I fuck myself is like, if I had the ability to really, like, for example, when I was selling hair straighteners, fun fact, mall hair straighteners, which sell for $300 or $400, cost about $6 wholesale from China.
So
and
it's like a Shopify store that's got a physical address.
It's the same exact thing, except you have to be way better at selling to sell it. You know, nowadays you just have to be good at Facebook ads. But
I don't have this problem, but is like mall hair straighteners still a thing? Like, do you see these?
If you see Israelis in a mall, then yes, it's still a thing.
I don't know how many Israelis are in Tennessee. I'm not sure.
If there's a good mall, they're there. I bet you. So if you see a hair straightener kiosk in a mall, it is Israelis. The end. That's who does it. They have this thing where they come to America for several years, make a shit ton of money, and then they go back and then they're just like balling forever, you know, or they start their own company and then they bring them out, bring younger people out and they give them a place to stay. And it's crazy. The model is brilliant.
Do they come here because the market's better? Like what's the
just
appeal?
You can sell fucking hair straighteners in the mall. And then there's Israelis, their culture is so much more pushy than ours, so they're the best salespeople. Yeah, there's haggling built in, and
that part of the world likes to haggle. Yeah,
we Americans are okay at it, but the kind of Americans that can do it are like there's a 50% chance they're on coke. That was my experience with the kiosks. It's like half the people that worked on the kiosks were cokeheads. But the reason I bring that up is I could sell the shit out of those things until I found out they were $6, and then I felt really bad, right?
Yeah.
Part of the thing that makes my life harder is that I really don't like doing things that are not super ethical.
You need to watch the movie Boiler Room.
I'm vaguely familiar, but Greed is good. No, that's not. That's
Wall Street. Boiler Room's a little bit more obscure. It's got Vin Diesel in it, weirdly enough, and he's kind of good in it. And Ben Affleck's in it. There's some great scenes, but like that's one of the big themes of the movie is that Giovanni Ribisi, who I do not like as an actor, but he's okay in this movie. He starts like an illegal I think it's blackjack thing in his apartment, frat, whatever the fuck it is. And he kind of feels guilty doing it. But then he starts working at this like trading firm, but they're paying like a shitload of money. They're like, wait, how come this like little rinky-dink trading firm can afford to pay us like these amazing rips, you know, like these commissions? And one of the brokers like grabs and is like, hey, look, don't ask questions that you don't want to know the answer to. All right, like we got a good thing here. All right, this is fine. Don't worry about it. You know, so it's kind of the same idea. You'd like it. It's got a lot of really, really good like salesman lines because I think you got to be an incredibly good salesman if you're selling a shit fucking product.
Well, actually, no. Believe it or not, the hair straighteners were awesome. We had my buddies opened the kiosk and they got a different brand, and that one was not
$300. You know.
Well, here's the thing: if you do your job right, people love it.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't do your job right, it doesn't matter how much it costs.
It's funny. Well, we've been in sales, especially online sales recently, and it's funny. I found that it is way easier to sell a $20 book than it is to give away a free one, which is insane. You know, but like I have one I give away as my free newsletter thing, but like that's still, it's almost like there's a payment thing going on there. But
people literally don't value shit that doesn't cost money.
Yeah,
which is insane to me.
And I've thought about that with one of my books because I wanted everyone to read it, and I thought I should make it free. And I was like, if I make it free, no one's gonna buy it. And I had a book that was free for a while, and no one bought it. And then I made it $3, and then people started buying it. But they
Was it the
perceive,
Matrix one? I think you told me about this.
that one's still free. For now, it's I don't know. I might replace it soon. Actually, I'm working on something. But no, in my Home of Awesome blog, my first blog that I did, that was like a total failure. It wasn't a failure. It was actually pretty popular. It got like a lot more hits than I would have thought, but it didn't make any money. So I took it offline, actually, with your guidance on that, oddly enough. And I condensed it all into like the most, like I took like the best 80% of it and turned it into like a book. And I started giving it away, and no one bought it, or no one wanted it. And I charged a few bucks for it. And it sells okay. But I don't promote it like at all. And then I make it Reclaim Your Manhood, and I charge $5 for it. The thing sells literally every single day. So it's funny how that works.
That's very weird. It's just
So
like
fucking weird. I don't really understand psychology that well. Like, I understand like how to use it. I don't understand why things work.
Because, well, people want. We've really internalized this idea that if something costs, it's not even just money in and of itself, but we've like really crammed together the idea of value and money, so they have to be correlated.
Yeah.
And like, man, you know how much shit I've taught myself for free, or books I've gotten for 25 cents that have changed my life. Like, I have a huge library, and I bet you I've spent way less money on the amount of books that I have than the next 5 people for more books, right? You have, I mean, in Raleigh, for example, there are 2 bookstores across the street from each other that sell. One of them has a giant 50-cent section and a 25-cent section. The other one has a 50-cent section. And I can go in and come out with a bag with 20 books in it, and I'm going to get more out of that than I ever got for all the stupid ass money wasted on college shit,
Damn,
the
dude.
value of college for me was meeting people, and that was it.
Yeah. There's 2 things you get out of college, and that's one of them. The other thing is, a degree. Like, it's not what the degree means. It's just that you can show people like, hey, you can hire me. I'm better than the other guy.
Well, yeah. The thing I always wondered is like, okay, imagine you're hiring someone, right?
Right.
And you have 2 candidates. One of them went to school and got a degree, and the other person quit on the last day, right before they got their degree. They both went to all the same classes, got the same grades. Yeah. What's the difference?
I mean, the obvious thing is like, why did he quit? What went wrong? Why would anyone do that? But you're right. They have the same education.
I would hire that guy because he sounds like a fucking crazy bastard. But that's my kind of people. I don't know.
You might leave your company after like 89 days, and you got like a project due in 100.
Yeah. But no, I mean, that's the premise of that being that like there's this thing that we do where we assume that because it is a certain way, it must be a certain way.
Yeah.
Right? Like, whether that's, first off, like, the college system as it is now didn't exist 500 years ago, and yet more things in the history of humanity were invented by people. They had hundreds of years, right? Like,
they use like apprenticeships, like they had like the job shadowing, and people were more like specialized. Like, my problem with college, I don't mind college. I think there's too much fat. Like I'll say this story for another day because it's it's getting late and it's not that important. But like, I almost flunked out of college because on my last semester, because I almost missed a geology 100 test. I have an econ degree, so just because I don't understand the cleavage or luster of rocks, like, you're gonna hold me back. But I was disorganized, which is one of my flaws. So maybe there's something to that. But I talked my way out of it. So maybe there's something to that. It kind of balances out. But like, why do I need to take a geology class as an economics degree major?
I mean, honestly, what it really is on a certain level is like this kind of enforced compliance. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to, at risk of sounding like a person with a Joker avatar that says we live in a society, because I'm not trying to ever come across like that guy. A lot of the way that we do things is more about you accepting the way we do things and people knowing that you're the kind of person that isn't going to make unusual choices.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the problem. I don't know. I realized at a certain point fairly early, like, I can't, I don't know. I'm going to have to live the hard way because I can't I don't know. I can't do it that way.
But you're right though. College, it sets you on a path where it's like, look, you're better off than those idiots that, you know, they didn't want to write about Moby Dick and they flunked out of 7th grade or whatever. But it also doesn't give you the Bill Gates option. You might make it in spite of that, but college is not really. People that graduate from college usually aren't like the incredibly world-changing people, you know. Yeah, you cut out for just a few seconds there. What'd you say?
Oh, I heard Moby Dick and world-changing people, but not what was in between that.
So, like going to college, you know, you're setting yourself in a position where it's like, you know, you're not going to be that idiot that flunks 7th grade because they didn't want to write about Moby Dick, but you're also not going to be like that top tier person that, you know, really changes the world. Decides to start a company that bores tunnels under LA and shoots rockets into space. Like,
names your kid dumb bullshit.
Yeah, dumb bullshit. I blame Grimes, or because like a more polished woman would not let him do that. But or like Bill Gates, like he didn't go to college. He also stole a lot of good technology from, you know, his competitors and shit. Same as Steve Jobs. He basically took technology the government wasn't using and applied it better, which is clever in its own right.
Yeah.
He wasn't the visionary people claim him to be, though.
It's not as much now. See, that wasn't the magic of what he did. It's not that he was necessarily innovative in and of himself, because I think he had a very good appreciation of aesthetic stuff that most people don't have and don't understand. True. But his ability to sell something intangible is what made him great. And people don't appreciate. I mean, so here's the example: is you have Tim Cook running the same company, arguably, and guess what? Apple is now the prestigious, hey, this is expensive company, not the this shit's magic company, right?
You're right.
It used to be magic.
Well, they used to be like, we can build something more magnificent than this, and now it's like, I think we can make this a little bit bigger, a little bit better. It's like, well,
you know, it's a word. You know when I knew that they were fucked?
When they put 3 cameras on one phone.
No, that was far late.
No, it was when they had a little like thing on the top of the screen. You know, on the iPhone 10, they had like a little black thing that came down. That was it for me.
You know what it was for me? It's when there were two specific things. One, when they made that goddamn pencil.
I don't even remember.
2, because Steve Jobs explicitly said, I want to build these phones so good that you never have to use a fucking stylus or something to that extent. And 2, the size of the phone, right? So they made these giant ass phones, and then they invented that thing that you can do that makes the screen move down, right? Because the entire purpose, if you ever read the development process of the original iPhone, he had them make 40 different fucking iPhones that were all different sizes, thicknesses, widths, heights, weights. And he made it so that the first one was exactly the right size for everybody's thumb to reach the whole thing.
Mostly. But yeah, exactly.
Barring, unless you have the fucking hand from Scary Movie 2.
Well, I mean, like, you kind of miss the top corner a little bit, but you don't need it.
Right.
But it kind of works.
But
so you get to the top and you get to the bottom, but this thing, what the fuck, man? Whose thumb gets up that high?
Nobody's. And that's they cared more about what the market wanted than what was actually what
it all went downhill when people started watching porn on their phone and they wanted widescreen porn.
That must be it.
That's what happened. They're like, look, their thumbs don't reach the top. Like, yeah, but I had to squint to look at my porn, all right? This ain't gonna work for me. And that's when Apple went downhill. It's always porn's fault.
That must be it.
Mm-hmm.
They
probably is why the screens are getting bigger.
Elon,
Netflix, whatever.
Elon kind of gets it, you know, in the sense that he's selling a glorious vision to humanity, which I think is like what we need. And is it weird that the only people that really do this in a meaningful way are business people?
Maybe it's just they're the only ones that get the limelight to reach enough people. You gotta get that 100th monkey point, you know. Dude, Elon's like an angel of hope, though, where no matter how bad things are, it's like, well, if we can launch a car made by the same guy who built the rocket past Mars, even though it's supposed to hit it, that's inspiring. And that's what he wants to do more than anything. He wants to inspire people. Like, he wants to go to Mars, but more than that, he wants to inspire people. And man, is he killing it.
He gives a shit, and he like trying to make the world meaningful again. And that's, again, obviously my central thing. That's really what I care about.
I pray that I'm alive when we get to set foot on Mars. I just want to see it.
I would love that.
Like, imagine how awesome it was watching the moon landing. Like, our generation needs that next step. Even if it's the fucking moon. I'd love to see Americans walk on the moon again.
Did you ever see Iron Sky?
Oh, I love that movie. It's one of my guilty pleasures. Actually, not only do I love that movie, I watched both of them, and I bought the video game, which is weirdly good. It's like great, actually.
Okay, well, I will do that.
If you like space shooters, it settles like all the action that happens like in the middle of it.
People will never understand. Future generations that watch that movie will never appreciate the absolute perfect humor of Sarah Palin as president, and then send somebody to the moon with the slogan "Black to the Moon." That is the single funniest joke in the history of all movies. Like, whoever the fuck came up with that, they said, "Oh, hey, we're gonna make a movie about Nazis on the other side of the moon, and Sarah Palin is president, and she got elected because she's sending a black guy to the moon, and then they turn him into a white guy."
Yeah,
and that's the movie, and they made that movie. That's pretty much fuck? It. How the fuck did see my? I want to know, how do people do these insane things? Right, that's what I find inspiring.
Well, then the best part is the Germans build this like gigantic spaceship that doesn't fly because they don't have the computing technology to make it work. And then the astronaut's iPhone, it has the computer power to make it run.
Yeah.
I love movies where like,
have you seen the second one?
It's probably better. Yeah, it's got Hitler riding a T-Rex.
Comparable, and they're all top people, and
I was very inebriated when I watched it.
Stuff. That was really funny.
Well, it had Agartha in it, which I don't know why, but everything about Agartha amuses me. Like the idea of a hollow Earth and like a much better place inside the Earth, even though it's like completely insane. Like, I fucking
it's actually it's a pretty prevalent myth. It's really interesting.
Weirdly, there's a lot of stories of people that claim they went there. Like, there's like this ancient Norse myth about these two guys that went fishing, and they like talk about how it got too cold and then it got warm, and all of a sudden they're in this land of giants. Is it Snorri or something?
It's funny because Iron Sky, like all of the weird parts of all of those movies, are actually real theories that people have.
It's like super grounded as far as like where these ideas came from. Like, they didn't really invent
like Vril. That was the Nazis actually believed that was a thing. Right, there was a magical energy source that you could use that rejuvenated you and stuff.
Well, and
that
the whole idea of like
society was
element 115 was like what made the Nazi like Bell Diklaka fly. That thing existed.
They had UFOs, and that they went to the center of the Earth, and that there's an ice wall in Antarctica. There's a bunch of shit. The really crazy one. I guess this will be a great note for people who want the single. I am a person who has read probably every single crazy thing in the world. The single craziest of all things, if you really want to go see something just truly insane and bizarre, there is a very specific mythology created in the last 100 years called esoteric Hitlerism, where I believe a guy who I think was the president of Chile, his name is Miguel Serrano, was a huge adherent of this, right? But maybe not the president of Chile, but he was a serious person. And there are lots of serious people affiliated with this, but they basically believed that Adolf Hitler was an incarnation of Vishnu or Krishna or one of the
Hindu.
I forget who. No, it was one of them. I forget who specifically. I think it was Krishna maybe. And that he was fighting to save the world from the apocalypse or something.
That's crazy.
And it goes way deeper than that. It is insane, but it's a fully fleshed out religion. Like,
esoteric Hitlerism.
Fuck? People are
I love all the like weird shit where they're like, Hitler and the Nazis actually escaped to the moon. They escaped to Agartha. It's like, I mean, if anything, some of the subordinates escaped to South America, and now they have German Fest in Chile. So, I mean, it's like all conspiracies are based on reality, but they're just way more elaborated.
I mean, there are definitely Nazis in Argentina. That's the one thing. So, did Hitler go there? Probably. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah. I've been watching The Simpsons lately because I'm like digging into like nostalgia. And there was like an episode recently where they visit in like Brazil or something, and they almost run into Hitler. Should we wrap this up?
Yeah, on that note.
Mm-hmm. Well, they've got a rabbit hole to go down. So, all right. Yeah. So, I don't know.
And if anyone, I'm off Twitter for the rest of the month, but if anyone feels like telling me what research they did on that, yeah, hit me up on Twitter, because why not? My DMs are open.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'll still look. Where can people
No,
find
no,
you?
I'm actually no. I have so
Are
I
you
was
not
gonna
checking it?
deactivate my. I was gonna deactivate my account, and then I was like, oh,
Nah.
I'll probably forget to reactivate it. It'll get deleted.
Just-
So I undeactivated it. So I'm logged out of all of my platforms.
There
As a
you go.
result.
Yeah, I would say either do that or just delete it from your phone. Like that's the real.
The downside is I don't want people to think that I'm ignoring them, but on the other hand, it's too late for that. So
No, it's okay. I unfollowed you, then I followed you back.
yeah, well,
I had to unfollow you. I didn't follow you.
it's okay. I told
It's
everyone
okay.
they could unfollow.
I know you did, but you know, you also designed the cover of my book. That's magnificent. So I couldn't.
Oh, a physical copy. Oh, I need to get
know.
one.
Yeah, I'll
Shit.
bring you one.
Hey.
I'll come
Oh,
out the
speaking of
rally.
which, I have a book. I have a book for you
Ooh.
that I forgot what it was. But
Tell me when rally's fun again, and I'll come out there.
we're getting there.
Maybe soon.
We're in phase 1 now. Gym's open on the 22nd, so we'll see.
Maybe later this month. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
No, it's probably June.
Next month. All right, I can do June. We'll
Are
make
the
it work.
Wait, the bars are open there though. We might come see you.
Yeah. You should. It's fun.
What
The
are you doing there?
restaurants are open.
What are you doing this weekend?
Double check with me. I think I can do that. I think that can work.
I might be down. I need to get an
Yeah,
oil
actually.
change. But
I need to get my brakes fixed on my fucking Jeep. Still runs. You just gotta be careful.
hold that thought. I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna see if Vic wants to come. So.
All right, man. Where can people find you now that you're more elusive?
Well, my website, or wait till I get back.
At Libra_Rex.
Yeah, and you can DM me and stuff. I'm just not obviously checking them until like the 31st or the 1st. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
but
it's
yeah,
kinda nice. I've been less checking my phone lately. It's been really nice. That's the way to do it.
Word.
All right. Garrett from Fight Club to mythos and propaganda in movies to esoteric Hitlerism. It's been awesome, man. It's been real. All right.
Always a pleasure.
Hell yeah, dude. I told you we'd do another one of these. We'll do it again.
Oh yeah.
All right, see you, man.
Deuces.
Sign it off.